appreciate you starting your day with us. Let's get into this morning's first conversation.
Is the country's healthcare system more at risk more than ever?
Why it has remained unaddressed for so long?
Political parties get lots of cash, big cash from financiers, and then when they get that now, you can't account for it.
But it's really the specialist nurses who we are in a greater shortfall for.
We can tap into the resources and have them, at least form some mentorship programs.
Highlight our food systems, and which will attract persons from all over the world to come and experience something that actually supports the local economy.
We're lucky that we have a vibrant legal system that allows change to take place, and it's not that matters are just swept under the carpet and discrimination is allowed to be perpetrated.
A lot of people don't know that there were attempts to ban the carnival, suppress the carnival.
WESN.
Good night and welcome to WESN's post-budget panel discussion, Our Financial Future on the 2026 budget.
Naomi? Sure, Michael Small. And we're joined to start off the show. We'll have a series of guests coming in, multiple sequences. First off, we have the good lady herself, the only person in this room who has actually had to do the marathon herself and present a budget to the country. Of course, Karen Nishishera, former Minister of Finance. And somewhat of a prophet, because, if you heard him this morning, you would know what I'm talking about. Dr. Shane Mohammed.
What's going on? Today was exciting, did you think?
It was an interesting budget.
It was.
All right. Let's just, we're not here to hear me talk. We're here mainly to hear you talk. So, Karen, let's start with you. What's your first impression of this first budget of the new administration?
Well, it was very detailed. Did it need to be that detailed? I'm not sure, but it was. And I thought that what was good, though, which I had felt they would have done, apart from saying how bad things were, which you have to understand, they would say it, and they had every right to say it. And they did say, but they didn't prolong that part of the budget speech, which was good. But what they did is signal hope. And the hope they signal is that they have already shown that within 6 months what they've achieved, and it is commendable. The two major issues we have is crime and economy. And when it comes to crime, there's no question about it that they have cut down the murder and the violent crime. Those statistics are there for anyone to see. In fact, I saw for Tobago, there's a 300% deduction. So that is really significant. And for Trinidad, it's in the 40-something percentile. There's no question, even though I know we have a state of emergency, but it's not the usual one where there's a curfew. So I do think a lot of credit must go to the new Commissioner of Police, also the Minister of Homeland Security, which I thought was a good thing to break up the two national security portfolios. And then, so you see that. And then also with regard to the economy, let me just put it this way, Dragonfield and Exxon, which I'll have more to say about that, because that is the backbone of our economy. But we have to admit, give the government, the former minister, that the Minister of Finance kept saying, it was kind of amusing, to be honest. He kept saying, the fact of the matter is that that government did achieve the 30-year lease with Venezuela. Without that, we would still not have any hope of a dragon field natural gas, which we desperately need. So give them that credit. But with regard to this government, in the terms of the economy, the Exxon-Mobil, which I have my concerns about, but I'll talk about that later, and Dragonfield, clearly, let us put that in perspective. Yes, it's only 6 months, but understand, this is a time when there's active hostility towards Venezuela. Not a time of peace, not a time of détente or whatever it's called. it was a time of active hostility by Trump administration. So a combination of Trump's personality and his last administration, where he targeted Venezuela, for our prime minister to achieve what she achieved, you have to give her credit for that, regardless of how you may feel about how it came about. I will just say, to counter that, yes, some of the language used may have been unfortunate, to put it mildly, but you know, as I had said on one of the shows previously, Trinidad and Tobago, there's a UN report of 2024 that we have the largest number of Venezuelan migrants per capita in the world. So when Venezuela, they're talking about how Venezuela will be, angry or hostile towards us, look at what we have done for Venezuela and continue. I don't see she sent a mass deportation of Venezuelans out of Trinidad. They're still here. They're still using our NIS. They're still having access to our healthcare system, and they are the largest in the world. So let us put that in perspective when we talk about how Venezuela, Maduro will not want to go ahead with the deal. But that I think is a message of hope. It's not about tightening your belt, that kind of negativity. It's more about just hold on. We are a government that their better days are coming. That's what I would say in conclusion.
So, trying not to be biased. I like to trying my best to not be biased or sound biased. I tend to depend on what messages come through my phone while the budget is going on. And based on that feedback, people tend to tell you, and especially those who are sitting on defense, are still sitting post-election on defense. They're not too sure, that sort of thing, right? And I got messages that said, this is actually a little bit exciting. This is a different approach. This is a different, not a talk down. It's not a shout down at us. That there are things that, and this is coming from a young professional, so that's a good thing. So a young professional reached out to say, listen, this is actually something that I have a lot of interest in because I like what I'm hearing from the minister. I like his approach. There are things here that we can relate to. I'm hearing innovation and hearing some, it's outside of just oil and gas. There's you can see that the government is committing itself to levels of diversification. And I do expect it all to come in 1 year. In fact, I will be honest enough to say that it is better than I expected.
I think
I'm happy enough to say that. Yeah. Come on, Shane, let's be honest.
The finance minister would have, he would have framed the entire budget around these 5 pillars. And when I saw that, I thought of the things that you would have said previously. So you spoke a lot about expecting to see or hoping to see a lot of diversification within the economy in different sectors. Did that display that, or was that a good show of what you were expecting?
Yes. In fact, in taking the notes, I do believe that when you have a constitutional majority, you have to take into consideration that there has to be institutional frameworks that need to be strengthened, bolstered, reformed. So everything that is happening under customs and excise, everything that is happening under BIR, even, in fact, I read and I was like, wait, does this sound like deja vu? Because that property tax that is coming for commercial properties is actually the way we should go.
No, I don't think she said. She said that was a levy on commercial and business.
So
it's residential only rental.
And residential rental.
Right, so it's residential rental. So everything that falls under commercial, residential or commercial that collects a rent.
Commercial is included?
Yeah,
Yes,
commercial is included.
Commercial and residential rental properties.
So
unregistered.
that is important. The whole thrust towards digitization and what they plan on doing with digitization of the entire system, PTSE. So yes, and then agriculture. Big on needing, like even today when I was talking about agriculture, I was like, we need to go beyond just incentives. You need to have more in-depth because you have to reach out to farmers and you have to give them the tools and the what is needed. So you know, I will admit, it is better than I anticipated. And obviously, you know, I'm biased towards Tobago, and hurrah for them.
I'll say this about agriculture. I saw someone post, they compared the allocation compared
That
to
is
last
what you
one.
look at.
It was slightly smaller. But then Shane basically said this morning before the budget, that's why I said the man is a bit of a prophet, folks. He was like, no, look for incentives, which was there. So I guess the question now, because apparently 700, you pointed out to be 700 plus million is to try to modernize and invest into agriculture. So I don't know how that allocation, you know, we don't know what the breakdown is for certain. They didn't give us that. But the incentives, that's kind of what made me feel, okay, they are, you know, taking agriculture somewhat seriously. I just think there may have been a couple other industries that they could have also had targeted incentives as well.
I'm looking forward to hearing from the Minister of Trade and Industry, because I want to hear about the manufacturing sector and how we're going to utilize the manufacturing sector. Because yes, we push in agriculture, but then are we just going to sell raw materials? Are we going to go into processing and that sort of thing? So, you know, that is where I think, then I heard him talk about direct flights from North America to Tobago. That's a tick on my box. Like, yes, we're actually going in a right direction. So, you know, it is not bad.
I actually thought they said about making us a hub, and I think they implied Africa, and geographically that's now, I'm like, oh yes. Okay. Coming from the east, that kind of makes sense, because then as a hub we could then spread out and offer different routes. Karen, you wanted to?
Yeah, because what I would say, I was now looking at the agriculture. I know every single year, and not only when PNM was in government or when Manning was in government, they give a whole suite of incentives in agriculture, but where they fall down all the time is the allocation for agriculture. It's never, you see all these good things, but when you look at the actual allocation, it falls short. So I was looking for agriculture, yes, last year it was more, it was 1.4 billion in agriculture.
No,
but that is 2024?
Right, so 25
is 1.7.
25 is 1.9
or 1 point what?
1?
1 point, yes. But what the incentive part, I wouldn't go too much on that, you know, because every year the ADB, the suite of incentives that they've traditionally given to agriculture is nothing new. It has always been there. What I would look at is what is the allocation, and then what I would look at also is what the minister, who now has been relieved of the lands parts and given to the Ministry of Legal Affairs, which I think is a proper fit there, because it's land settlements and things that are of a legal nature, so he can concentrate on agri and agri-industry. That's where the concentration should be. I want to hear the Minister of Agriculture speak on that. I know they said from a supply and demand side, you're looking at the supply side, you want to cut down our food bill. And I heard the minister talk about 25% by 2025. That's what CARICOM had said about a few years ago, which never materialized.
So by taking out land, I mean,
it allows it to focus.
This is one of the things, because I think all of the budgets say agriculture. They don't necessarily agriculture and land. It's similar to, the allocation is to national security, but we don't technically have a Ministry of National Security anymore. So that's one of the things that's unclear to me. I'm hoping, and what you're implying is, because land is taken out, more of that money now.
No, not so much more of the money, more of the focus of the ministry and the minister will be on agri and agri-industry, which is where we need to develop. What Shane is saying is not just the raw materials and just make growing cocoa and growing sugar and, you know, thing. You want to convert that into value added, because that's where the money lies. Just like with natural gas, the money lies in methanol, urea. That's where the money lies. Right? It's in the going up the value chain.
Modernizing the agricultural industry.
Right. So that's something I am not surprised at all. And also with the digitalization. In all fairness, the former government did do a lot of e-gov.
I have to give them credit for that.
Yes. So let's not make it seem as they all of a sudden this magic wand and they came up with all these ideas. It would not be right.
Credit has to be given that the previous Ministry of Digital Transformation, there's a lot of work, a lot of groundwork has been laid, a lot of infrastructure has been done over the years by ICNTT, and they've done a lot of work towards that thrust towards digitization. What we're seeing, though, is that work is not, someone didn't flush it down the toilet, it's worth something. Because it's easy for a government to look at another government's work and flush it down the toilet. Don't get me started on a national health card. But the thing about it is you're now utilizing the framework and the foundation that was laid to now build up the infrastructure even stronger. So we should be in a digitized world. And he did talk a lot about paper-based, paperless in, the transactions and whatnot. We need to go into that direction, and we need to, have people be able to conduct business easily. And that was one of our struggles, that the ease of doing business in the public sector in Trinidad and Tobago was very tedious for even foreign direct investors.
Yeah. Absolutely, but the thing about it with digitalization, I don't think we had any choice. That's the world.
Yes.
AI has taken over. If he had not, and if his government had not signaled, I think Kennedy Swartzing had started the whole ball rolling very early in his ministerial portfolio, saying the kind of change and the kind of revolution we would have in terms of the payment system and so on. But that is unnecessary. You can't enter into this world now, in this competitive environment. In fact, just as an off point, de-dollarization has taken up speed, and it hasn't been able to do that because of the electronic platforms that have been able to facilitate that. And that brings me to two things. I did not appreciate the minister taking credit for the solar plant, because Brecon Pool Solar plant is a huge project, including, I think, either Shell or BP, one of the big oil companies, that was going to be finished in July 2025. It is no credit to this government, that solar plant project. It has been, I've spoken about it many times on your show. Yeah. So there's no question to come and talk about it as if it's some sort of, something that you achieve. You did not achieve that, and I did thought that was not in good taste to have done that. The other thing that, besides the solar, there are a few things that I took a little bit of the property tax. My goodness, that's what you're bringing back. Why? This is what I told you, Sean. I told you, I said, you notice, she said, she never said we won't have, this is probably, you could call it a rose by any other name, it's still a rose. And what, in a way, it may cause problems, because when I was in government, they started but she nearly lost government. She actually lost government because of that Margaret Thatcher with the tax, with the poll tax. When what they did, they said that persons are doing it by the head. And everybody knew that in the inner city, in the urban areas, they had many more people living there than in the large manor houses in the countryside where the millionaires lived. And it created a huge riot, because they said it reminded them of the poll tax in the United States, right? So that now they're coming with this. This is going to be used, I assume, for local government. So what am I going to do? I am going to be the one that is going to what is the word for it? Subsidize the local government work in my thing, because I happen to have a house and you don't. You have one house that you live in, it could be a big mansion. You better put all your money in stocks and shares. I don't know where you put your money, but you don't have, or you have your money outside of the country. I don't know where your money is, but now I am living in a regional corporation, and I have to now, I think it's going to cause resentment. Anything you put in is going to have problems, but I don't know if that necessarily is a good fit or good solution.
Now, it seemed as though they may have added taxes. They may have added some duties here, some taxes there. They may have taken others away, like they took VAT from some items. I believe they're going to open up foreign import cars a little bit further or back again. They're only going to target high-end electric vehicles. They're not necessarily going to go mid and low-end electric vehicles.
But he justified that.
He
really justified it. And what I like, I know Karen said he didn't need to, but I feel as though that in his maiden contribution, he stayed true to who he is. And one of the things that he wanted to, it's part of his personality that I'm not just going to talk and say, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. I'm going to still explain that. And I think I have to give credit where it's due as well. I literally beat the last administration on the fact that they communicated. They didn't communicate at all. They didn't. One of their major downfalls, putting aside their bad governance and poor leadership.
I'm still.
Is there terrible communication?
I still have consternation with their current poor communication in opposition, which I don't understand.
But the thing about it is, you know, you want to get, you need to, when you're delivering a budget, your budget is supposed to be geared towards every single level of the society that is tuned in to hear what you're going to say and what you're offering them. So for example, you know how much of Trinidad and Tobago is happy that they're paying less for gas come tomorrow?
Yes. And for, and for us pensioners.
And for us.
Oh my God.
For
not
you
us. I mean, you can join if you want, but I was
pensioners.
I really felt I won. I really,
right?
no, but to be fair, all joking aside, the Prime Minister did say that, you know. The Prime Minister did say that, said that when, I don't want to say the Prime Minister did say that it was not right that you have worked all your life and now you pay taxes all your life, and then now you're retired and living on a very limited, and it's not inflation protected either. You're turning around now and taxing me on it. And I thought that, I really thought it was not right. And
when you come down to a grassroots dollar and cents thing, right? Especially when you think about it from, especially from the elderly and that sort of thing.
You're looking at me when you say that?
I didn't, but okay, I'll now look at you.
No, he was looking at himself in the screen.
But the thing about it is, when you talk about it from the perspective of we've worked all our lives, and then we have to pay taxes on our pension. And then you've taken that out from pensioners, so they don't have to pay taxes on their pensions. Then you also eased up the burden on their food security within regard to how much they can spend and their disposable income in the grocery. And then you added to that, you actually gave them less money to pay in their gas. That is taking care of all levels, you know. And if there wasn't something that everybody could benefit from, is that whole paying $1 less for that gas goes a long way.
Yeah, we all agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know something about if the government doesn't have to collect the tax and then redistribute the money. They're just spending the money. It's in circulation, and it will, you know, help.
Talking about
the pension not being taxed. It's just in circulation. It will work for itself. You don't need a bureaucracy now to try and figure out how to get that money to work for you, because it will just continue cycling through.
They're going to have more.
More disposable income.
Exactly.
And you know something, with that, many people who go live on a pension, the pension is not necessarily a large pension, right? So that brings into play the marginal propensity to consume, which means that persons who are in that category, I think I spoke about it with Dr. Theodore already, with the CPAP. Yes, CPAP workers, marginal propensity to consume. In any event, what you were saying, you are putting money back into the economy, and it may not be to going to high-end hotel or so on. Maybe it's a little parlor, maybe it's a little, something that that's within your budget, but still you're putting money and you're giving a maxi taxi driver. So you're creating employment. So it's not lost income there. It's not lost.
Contributing to people's revenue generation as well.
Exactly. So it's not lost taxes. It's really not lost taxes.
Before we go into what I think for every budget would be the crux of the is this good or not, right? Revenue, expenditure deficit. One thing though I want to ask, just based on everyone's, I know this is initial, right? Do you think some of the job creation, I have a little bit of a sense, right? I'm going to take a break in just a second, but is some of the job creation hopefully more centered around infrastructure type projects and growth type projects, and not just, because they did say they're going to get rid of CPAP and URP. I'm not entirely sure exactly what they're replacing it with. But if we're going to try to improve digitization and agriculture infrastructure and transportation infrastructure and so on, to me, that's like, all right, those are jobs that when you are under some stress, it could lead to some economic positives. Anybody got that sense? Because I think I got a little bit of that sense, but it was a long presentation.
So there's a lot that one of the things, when you talk about employment and job security, you know what it means about having to not have to worry about your contract getting renewed? We could stop there and we could take that point up when we come back, but just consider that your stress of being a contract worker, when your contract is about to expire, you don't have to sit down and wonder that I'm going on short term and I don't hope somebody sees the benefit for me to come back, that there's a pathway towards permanency.
So are you talking about the CPAP ERP?
Nah, not yet. We didn't get there yet. We're talking about those in the government structure.
Okay, well, let's take a pen. Let's take a pen because we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by another guest to further the conversation with his very considerable expertise. Stay tuned. This is our financial feature. We'll be right back.
The season of lights is bright and tasty with Royal Castle's delightful veggie burger made with a healthy and nutritious patty. It's great on its own or in a combo with one side and a 16-ounce drink. So whether it's lunch, dinner or a snack, Royal Castle's veggie burger fits right in with your fasting and festivities. Happy Diwali from Royal Castle.
My mom has been shopping here for the last 15 years. So coming here with her, now I have my own family.
The variety of items, cleanliness of the place, the spaciousness.
My favorite section is household.
My husband loves the hardware section and the auto section. My favorite would be stationery.
Price Club is the low price leading supermarket in TNT.
They are the best. I would recommend Price Club to anybody.
It's Diwali time again. Come to Prem Singh's Puja Bhavan for all your Diwali essentials. Get your clay diyas, cotton wicks, floating wicks, beautifully decorated imported diyas. And now in stock, our long-lasting, easy-lighting wax diyas. Fasting? We have frozen vegetarian meals, exciting Indian spices and grocery items, decorated mithai boxes, prasad bags, freshly ground elaichi powder, and paper sohari leaves. And don't forget our popular, tasty, mouth-watering mithai. We have simple Diwali Puja guides on CD with a Puja handout, and our helpful staff will assist you with all the required ingredients to perform your Diwali Puja. Get great deals on lantern decorations, electric diya string lights, and Happy Diwali decorations. Visit us at the corner of Watt Street, Kirep, or at St. Ives Street, Chaguanas, opposite the Charleville taxi stand, or call 663-6084. Prem Singh's Puja Bhavan. It's a family tradition, serving the nation and Dharma. Lakshmi Mata's divine blessings to all. For your convenience, both branches are open on Sundays until Diwali.
In Hinduism, cow's milk is revered, and from the finest milk comes our ghee. When offered into the sacred fire, cow ghee carries our prayers to the deities, unlike processed vegetable ghee. From your devotion to your delicious dishes, you can trust Anchor Cow Brand Ghee. For all occasions, use the best ghee. Enjoy the best food and delicacies, and have the best Diwali with Anchor Cow Brand Ghee.
Lighting up for Diwali just got simple with the easy-to-use Anand brand wax diyas. They're scientifically engineered to last longer, burn brighter, and keep on lighting. Anand brand wax diyas do not require any prepping or filling and has less spillage and cleanup. These diyas are recommended for outdoor use and can withstand light wind and rain. Plus, they're eco-friendly. Redeem your use cases for cash back. So put some green innovation into your Diwali celebrations with Anand brand wax diyas.
My name is Dr. Joanne Williams-Carroll, and I am the Director of Behavioral and Mental Health at the Community Hospital. At the Community Hospital, we believe in nurturing mind, body, and soul. Through our counseling and chaplaincy program, we will provide you with support and strength you need to help with your mental and emotional well-being. Give us a call.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Welcome back to WSN's Our Financial Future on the 2026 budget. So we are now joined by Dr. Justin Ram to get his perspective and his views on this budget. So good night, Dr. Ram. Welcome. Good night. Thank you for having me. So I wanted to jump in and ask you this question. We were talking about tax before we went to break, and there are talks of repealing the Revenue Authority and rebuilding the Inland Revenue Division. Do you think that that approach risks delaying some sort of or needed tax reform?
Well, this is a very difficult one. You know, the government had its political reasons for wanting to repeal the TTRA Act, and they've gone ahead and done that very quickly after getting into office. Now, they do understand, it seems from this budget, that there's still the imperative to ensure that we collect enough taxes and to ensure that there is significant tax compliance amongst the population. So, in many ways, I do welcome the initiatives to improve the Inland Revenue Department, although I feel as if that is what the TTRA was meant to do. So, in many ways, although the government did repeal the TTRA Act and is not going ahead with implementing that, they are now doing some of the same things via the, I guess, the improvements to the Inland Revenue Department. Now, the only thing here I would say is that the TTRA was meant to also consolidate inland revenue along with customs and excise, right? So you would have had that one unit doing tax collection and revenue collection for the government. And I guess that was supposed to have had some efficiency gains. But now they are working within the duality of an IRD and customs and excise. And so the government now has to ensure that both of those agencies are going to operate as efficiently as possible. Now, the minister did say that these improvements in terms of employment, so filling the gaps that they have in terms of posts that are not filled within the IRD and within customs and excise, are supposed to now increase revenue collections. Mm-hmm. It's left to be seen how that will work. Yeah. So in many ways, I think the government is still doing what the TTRA is supposed to do, but at the same time, they should have probably just stayed with the TTRA. I didn't see why they needed to do it, but there was a political promise to do so. And I think it was all bundled together with this notion that we shouldn't have property taxes, yes? Mm-hmm. And so I think that was all part of this political sort of drama that we had. But at the same time, the government needs to collect fiscal revenues and needs to do that efficiently.
Well, I do want to say something.
Follow-up is they kind of did put a property tax in.
No, well, I don't even want to deal with the property tax. I want to deal with TTRA, because when I was in government, we were able to pass the TTRA in the lower house, and then Mr. Manning called the election and he dissolved parliament. So I am very familiar with that legislation. And the reality is, it's not exactly what you're saying, Dr. Ram. It's not exactly that. The reason why the public service did not want the Revenue Authority, because it was going to make it into a quasi-private entity. So there would be no more promotion by seniority, it will be by meritocracy. To join the Revenue Authority, it was not just coming over to the Revenue Authority. You had to be interviewed. They also had to determine whether which department you were a good fit, and the most important part was the customs part. Customs and Inland Revenue were always part of Ministry of Finance. It always fell under the Ministry of Finance. The thing about it is, the issue was, and Gordon Dean, who had been the head of the Chamber of Commerce, because the Revenue Authority did predate me. Conrad O'Neill, other ministers had that portfolio, and then when I came in, we already had the consultants on board. And the reason was there's a lot of corruption in the Board of Inland Revenue as well as in customs. And the reality was, it's a nature of bureaucracy. Bureaucracy allows you to get seniority to trump everything. Your salary may not be as good, but you have security of tenure. It's almost impossible to take disciplinary action against a public servant. Okay, so that is the reason they were against it. That is the reason they fought against it. And what I can't understand is that when we were there, we had the 3/5 majority, which this government has now. And when the former government, PNM, had to water it down because they did not have the 3/5 majority, and this government, when it was in opposition, never supported any of the bills of the government, except the one with with the tax from America, double that. Anyway, that whole tax thing. Right, I can't remember exactly. Yeah, I think that one, yeah. So the point I'm making, we knew you could not rely on them, so they had to water it down. And that is why they left in their version of the Revenue Authority, left the customs, the most important part, the enforcement division in the thing, and it was still in the public service, right? So, and I have to read this because I feel very, very strongly about it. You could put in as much fines as you want. You could say all what you want, Minister, and sound real good. You could say all what you want. It's an institutional framework that you need, and you need to put in a system where you can have control over the persons who work in your department. You can use key performance indicators and so on. And the case, which they do not talk about, Teresa Dorey versus the Attorney General, they very well know that was just heard a few months ago by the Privy Council. The argument they finally put to the Privy Council wasn't that which they first started and said, well, you know, public servants only can assess and collect taxes. The government said, the Privy Council said, no, that's not the reason. They said, the question is the Revenue Authority adequate and effective safeguard from political interference and improper pressure? And Lady Simler, who gave the decision on behalf of the board, said very clearly, I want to say, I think it's at 85, I want to say it because it's really disgraceful. The first is a specific argument that a change from existing government departments staffed by public officers, I want to say, okay, all of whom are appointed by the Public Service Commission to Division of Authority, staffed by employees who will be appointed by a board, in turn appointed by a minister and directed by a person appointed by the minister, will mean the possibility for political pressure will be substantially increased. The board has addressed this argument and identified the effective safeguards from improper pressure by the executive afforded by the Act, together with other avenues of protection. So generally, when she ended, she said that this argument does not arise out of the approach favored by the board. In any event, the board rejects it for the same reasons as those given by the board. So basically what the board said, they have enough protection that they do not have to stay in the Police Service Commission, and the reason why the Prime Minister gave in to them was because she made that promise to the PSA. Because it's not the man in the street that the Revenue Authority applies to, you know. It's not the man who works for $6,000 and $7,000 a month, you know. He under the radar. It's not him they're talking about, you know. You know who it is? The Chamber of Commerce. That's what they're talking about. You know who they're talking about? The high earning income people. And they don't want it. They do not want it. And I do not care what the minister says. He very well knows that what he's put in there cannot work if you do not do the institutional work to address the issues with the Board of Inland Revenue and Customs.
Now, I do have a follow-up, but I do want to ask Dr. Ram, before we get any further, just your initial thoughts on the budget generally, overall.
Well, I mean, you know, it's difficult to give a very good overview of it based on the very high-level numbers that we've heard, but I would have thought that this is the first year and the first budget of this new government. The country is not in a good place. Country has not been in a good place for well over a decade now. And it is now is the time in a new government when you need to take difficult decisions. I sort of feel that I didn't hear some of the most difficult decisions that needs to be taken as it relates to turning around this economy. Now, perhaps the details are going to come in the remainder of the budget debate in Parliament, when we hear from other ministers, when we hear from the Prime Minister. But I think I need to hear some more details because, for example, I want to know what are we going to do to promote and to get more investment, both locally and to get more foreign direct investment, not necessarily only in oil and gas, but what about the non-energy sectors? How are we going to get the investment there? I didn't hear enough about the special economic zone. I thought that this was a great opportunity for us to expand and to make it easier for firms to access special economic zone concessions. Because for me, I think personally, I think that this economy should be considered a total economic zone, and to have this economy as competitive as can be and make it difficult for people to import. Right now, it's the reverse. It's very easy to import, but very difficult for you to produce and export. And I think we need to make that flip. But to make that change requires some very difficult decisions. And I didn't quite hear that from the Minister of Finance. And I'm not sure if maybe during the rest of the budget debate we're going to hear these details, but I was a little bit disappointed because I think now is the time for any new government to make difficult decisions. And the thing about it, I've been advising governments across this world. I always say to them, on day one, your first budget, that has to be your most difficult, because then you have enough time to weather the storm. The moment you miss your first budget, I can't see you making difficult decisions after that.
Yeah,
that's the
hard
difficulty.
to kind of go backwards to give people goodies and then take them back.
It is, and I understand that to win the election, the government and the Prime Minister made certain promises to various special interest groups, and they had to come good on that. Okay, fine. But let's see the balance now. It's not only about where they are spending the money, but how are they going to incentivize this economy to become a lot more productive, export-driven, and import-substituting economy.
Now, one of the things I always brought up is we assume, to some degree, the public sector, there's bloat. There's unproductive elements that would make more sense to get rid of because they're not producing, right? And the wage bill is high. But it seems as though, and this goes back to the whole TTRA thing, the WASA report being scuttled, and they emphasized a bit about protecting jobs. Could it be that this government, who wants to be the next NRA, they don't necessarily at this point in time want to run the risk of appearing to be the government that fires people and retrenches people and gets rid of people. So perhaps they're protecting jobs, but potentially at the expense of trying to fix some of the various sectors that might need fixing?
Well, look, let's make it clear. If you want to turn around this economy, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. You have to swallow some bitter medicine. Now, you can do that. We have enough experience around the world as to how to go about restructuring an economy. You can do that and then have targeted interventions to those people who may be most negatively impacted by the reforms. You can do that. Right now, the government is spending a lot of money on transfers and subsidies that's benefiting everyone. And in fact, it's the wealthy persons in the society who are benefiting most from transfers and subsidies. Think about it. Cheap electricity, who benefits most from that?
Yeah.
So wealthy people. You can now cut back on that and say, you know what, wealthy people, you don't need that support. I need to now reduce my expenditures on transfers and subsidies while I'm restructuring this economy, and now target my interventions on those people in the lower percentiles, those people in the lower income brackets who need your support. We can do that, and now is the time to do that. And I just want to say that there are ways to implement these reforms, which requires the government to continuously communicate with the population and keep the people on their side. We can do that. There are ways to do that. And there are ways to do that by including, for example, getting the right people into some sort of, like for example, in Jamaica, there's the oversight committee where you have members of the public sector, the members of the trade unions, members of civil society who can help. Yes, and helps you guide this along and helps you communicate so that you keep the accountability going. So it's not, the onus is not only on the government to do that, but it becomes a society-wide thing to do. Yes?
Well, I do think there's some committees, there was a lot, Shane, but there was some talk about trying to form together some advisory committees.
It's the FOAC. I don't know what the A is for, I missed that part. But the Financial Oversight Committee, there's the Economic Resilience Council. The Financial Oversight Committee is chaired by the Prime Minister and will be co-opting several persons, including ministers. And then the Economic Resilience Council is chaired by the Minister of Finance. And so that's two of the committees. But there's a point that I wanted to make with regard to what Justin is saying. Now, from an economic perspective, that would mean you're literally saying you're taking from the rich and giving them a hard time, and then channeling that resource into easing the burden on those that are less fortunate, so to speak, right? Now, you do realize that's socialism, right?
Is that a bad word?
From a political science perspective.
England is a socialist country.
No, that's a bad word right now.
Communism is a bad word.
It's a bad word right now, and it doesn't. Socialism doesn't align well. Socialism does not align very well right now
Norway,
for the
Sweden,
geopolitics.
and UK that.
Right? It doesn't align properly for the geopolitics that we are finding ourselves in.
Although I think a lot of countries have socialist elements.
We do. I mean, and Trinidad and Tobago is a hybrid, right? But at this point in time, do we really want to take from the rich directly and give to the poor?
Let me try and translate. If we want to get investment, and we're seen as a place that's taking from the rich to give to the poor, it might cause investors to say, well, why would I want to come there?
That's not what this is at all. This is not about taking from the rich and giving to the poor. This is about now targeting your interventions towards those who really need it. Whether you're in a fully capitalist society, a socialist, communist, people would say that makes sense. Now, to target investments has nothing to do with subsidies. And so what you do is that you provide a competitive environment for people to want to invest here because they see that this is a place where I can make a good return. And that might require maybe a reduction in corporation tax, for example, so that you're encouraging the right type of investment here. So I would say to you, this is not about whether it's socialism. So it is about just making good sense when you have to make a decision as to how you're going to spend your money. Because remember, the government still has to reduce its budget deficit. We have been running deficits for a long time.
But okay, hold on for a second. Don't go there.
Don't go there yet?
Don't go there. So, but okay, just another point with regard to what Justin said. Justin is talking about CESA. He's talking about Special Economic Zones Authority, which was previously the Trinidad and Tobago Free Zone Company Limited. Now, I had the privilege of sitting on the TTFC, and when I left the board of directors of the TTFC in 2016, we had over 100 companies that was lined up, that was approved and ready to be given free zone status to come and set up in Trinidad and Tobago. This is going to sound bad. There's a successor to Vasan Bharat, who at that time was the Minister of Trade and Investment. His successor happened to be Paula Gopi-Schoon. She took a board of 9 persons and shrunk it to 3 persons, and they did absolutely nothing with the foreign direct investment that was lined up and ready to come into Trinidad and Tobago and to set up shop under the Free Zones Act and start providing us with the foreign direct investment that was very lucrative for us at that point in time. Fast forward to the end of their 10-year term, they decided to transform TTFC into SEZA, which is more or less the very same thing. Here's what the issue was with regard to the period of time from when I left the board of directors to January 2025, is that Trinidad and Tobago was designated to be a very difficult country to do business with. And under the TT BizLink and the infrastructure that was laid by Vasan Bharat, from red tape to red carpet, right, which was supposed to make the ease of doing business for foreign direct investment, which he implemented, was reversed completely by the Rowley administration and Paula Gopi-Schoon, and therefore all of that came to a screeching halt.
And that is true, you know. He's right, because no, you don't. You have the data to support you, because when you look when Vasan Bharat was there, the ease of doing business, we had gone very high up.
Very good.
And the fact of the matter, I remember him explaining it. He said he realized, and Jamaica's done so much good work with that. Jamaica, when they had the IMF arrangement, where the nice one, where they didn't top down, but they collaborated, right? What they did, they said that you could start a company in 3 days, because what they did is cut out all, and you see, when you have those things in a system, it encourages corruption, because I can't move to this step until the boss didn't come out to work today, and every time you come, you get the same story until you realize they want an envelope. And so it goes 10 steps, so he cut out a lot of that. So he did well. But I want to say with your thing with water, right? The reality is that one of the things that we use to make us competitive in the manufacturing sector is the price of water and electricity. Those are imported in the manufacturing sector. So that is a critical component of our competitiveness. But I do agree with, I just thought it would be difficult to implement, but I do agree. I do not think that's a case of giving to the Robin Hood situation. That's not a Robin Hood situation. We are already paying electricity and water rates, and no other country in the CARICOM region pays. Maybe Guyana does now, but no other country pays that. It's ridiculous. So, and the Regulatory Industries Commission has not been able to implement those changes. So I don't think anyone will argue. The only problem I see, would that take away some of our competitiveness? Is that going to impact on the competitors? And this other point, that's the only thing I would be concerned about. And with regard to the two things that the Economic Resilience Council and the Oversight Committee, it reminds me very much of what Colin Mimbert, as former minister, had set up, and it soon disbanded because he would, my understanding was he took nobody's advice. Now, if you make it law, and that's what they did in Jamaica, isn't that so? They made it law. You had to consult with this body that was created by statute, and you had to account as Parliament. You had to account to Parliament as your oversight and review of the government's performance. That is what you need to put in, not a council, not a committee, but legislation. And Jamaica already has the legislation, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
But the next thing I wanted to talk about, to add to what Justin is saying, is not necessarily taking from the rich and giving to the poor. I think we have to take it into a contextual perspective as well.
I want to say this though, don't underestimate the perception of people and what they perceive they are entitled to.
Yeah.
Right? From the low economic all the way up to the top. That's the only thing. I understand and I agree with you, but then there'll always be those that's like, no, this tax break, this grant is mine, as though somehow they have ownership of it and it's something that they inherited from their bloodline.
No, we have to take into consideration the context and the culture and the where we are as a society as well before we make such a drastic move. But the next part of it is that it comes from a point where, you know what it is for a young professional to message me and say, it feels good to not feel as though we have another burden on our shoulders for another economic year, or we have so much to be mindful of and that we have to tighten our belt. Literally, it felt good to not hear, tighten your belts again. Yes, I understand what Justin is saying. I agree. I mean, this morning I went ad nauseum on why agriculture is important, why agrarianism is important to balancing our budgets and balancing our economy, and how you must. I literally said that we were fools to get rid of the agrarian industry, and that we should have never destroyed the sugar industry. We should have restructured and steadied the ship. And because 3 years thereafter, the European Union realized that sugar was king yet again, and Trinidad and Tobago was in the dark, lights off. Yes, your government do that. Anyways,
I'm going to tell you how wrong. I'm going to tell you how wrong you are.
But the thing about it is,
Shane, I'm going to tell you how wrong you are.
Your prime minister went down the road of corn syrup and beef.
How could you say that?
Okay, let's leave the PNM.
No, this has nothing to do with that, because he is right. When I was there, the EU had said it had come to the most, whatever the kind of, not a subsidy, the preferential treatment had come to an end.
Correct.
Right, but what you are not saying, Sean, is that Shane, what you're not saying, Shane, is that the former government, Dr. Rowley was Minister of Agriculture. He had to write up over $5 billion of losses in agriculture. Agriculture is not supposed to be CPEP. It's not supposed to be URP. It's supposed to be contributing to our economy. It was not doing that. We could not produce sugar at the rate of Brazil, Indonesia, India. We simply could not. And by the way,
we can't afford to say that and still not be self-sufficient.
But what I'm saying is, what I would agree with is this. I think we should do like what Barbados has done. Barbados has sugar produced in northern part, that last thing, to produce for the rum industry. What we need to do is organic sugar, not sugar that, what you're doing it for, just to create another subsidy? You're trying to get rid of subsidies, you get rid of fuel, now you put in sugar back there. We give organic sugar and let it be there for the rum industry and rum-based industry, which is your agri-industry going up the value chain. But we had to get rid of it. It made no sense.
All right. Let's agree to disagree. So we could take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay tuned.
Sean.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The season of lights is bright and tasty with Royal Castle's delightful veggie burger made with a healthy and nutritious patty. It's great on its own or in a combo with one side and a 16-ounce drink. So whether it's lunch, dinner or a snack, Royal Castle's veggie burger fits right in with your fasting and festivities. Happy Diwali from Royal Castle.
I had this accident last year, so it is more convenient for me now to move about with the car, so I can move about the lanes properly. Here is the only place I can shop conveniently with my budget. Everything I get it here at a convenient price. I just get specials on butters and whatever, so it will be convenient for me. Their prices is very low compared to other supermarkets. It's a really nice place to shop.
In Hinduism, cow's milk is revered, and from the finest milk comes our ghee. When offered into the sacred fire, cow ghee carries our prayers to the deities, unlike processed vegetable ghee. From your devotion to your delicious dishes, you can trust Anchor Cow Brand Ghee. For all occasions, use the best ghee. Enjoy the best food and delicacies, and have the best Diwali with Anchor Cow Brand Ghee.
And we're back here on WSN's post-budget analysis panel, Our Financial Future, and we're joined by another new guest. He is the PRO of the UNT, Dr. Craig May, who here to add more lightning to the discussion. But before we supercharge this thing, I do have to go to Dr. Ram, because you brought up deficits and the need to reduce our deficits. We saw under the last administration, year after year, we had deficits, not just in the budget, but then when it came to the mid-year review, it's almost like if the deficit might have almost doubled sometimes, right? Especially in the last 2 years. Now we have a budget where, and it seems as though the opposition was a little bit stunned when they got the numbers. The deficit is only around 3 billion, right? It seems to be a better position than before. Again, this is initial analysis, so we're not going to hold it against you if you didn't get all the details, but how did you view this budget's attempt to generally control that situation of our growing deficit problem?
Well, let me say there was never any expectation that we were not going to have a deficit this year. What I think we really want to see is the government signaling, well, what eventually is going to be their fiscal anchor. Maybe by the end of this parliament, where are they expecting to then balance the budget by then? So you do it over a period of time. Now, one of the good things I did hear from the Minister of Finance today was that he's going to implement some fiscal rules, and I think he said that the deficit can be no more than 3% of GDP, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did.
That was a very, very good thing. I think as economists, we've been asking for this for a long time. Trinidad and Tobago needs fiscal discipline, just simply because of our politics. We know how it is. We need fiscal rules. So I think that was a very, very good initiative to hear. But on top of that, what I need to now hear is about the fiscal anchors. Where do we expect the fiscal deficit to get to maybe by the end of this parliament, and what measures are we going to put in place? But I think the finance minister, and I'm hoping that coming out of the debates around this budget in the next few days, is that we'll hear a bit more about growth. Because I feel as if the finance minister is hanging his hat that he's going to get growth and help us grow out of this problem. I think that is actually a very good initiative and where we need to place our emphasis. But I need to see the details. The devil is in the details right now. And so we didn't get enough from the Minister of Finance today, and I'm hoping that will come out. Those are the type of things that we need to hear. What's going to be the fiscal anchor maybe by the end of this parliament? How are we going to be reducing the deficit? What are the fiscal rules? So he says we can't have a deficit of more than 3% of GDP, but fiscal rules need to go beyond that. We need to say, when you are borrowing, you should perhaps only borrow for investment and not for consumption. Things like that we need to hear from the Minister of Finance. But let me say, from what I've heard, I think I've heard the right messages and the right tones coming out. But of course, I need to hear and see the details over the next few days to really make a proper assessment.
One of the few things I think that I did find is smart agriculture and AI farming will increase efficiency. This is just one of the entries from the budget. And self-sufficiency, targeting 1 billion in exports next fiscal year. There's a lot in this budget, I think, to put it simply, they seem maybe aggressive, might be the way to say. Some might say speculative, some might say hopeful. Is there any concern that perhaps it might be too aggressive with regards to speculation, or do you think, no, this is fine, in fact, this is what we need?
Yeah, as I said before, a new government, this first budget is very, very critical. You need to be aggressive, and you also need to make hard decisions. I'm happy on the side of aggressiveness. They're saying some right things there. I think what we're just lacking some very difficult decisions, because to turn this economy around, like I said before, is going to require everyone here to swallow a little bit of bitter medicine. It's going to be a bit painful. And now is the time for us to say to the population, let's sort of take a bit of a bitter pill now to turn this economy around, because in 5 years' time, this is where I expect we're going to be. So that means that on top of growth, there needs to be some fiscal consolidation, and I'm just waiting for some of the details around that.
Now, as you say, better medicine, Dr. Mayhew, one of the things I actually thought was good, because I was afraid when everybody win, might cause people to think this is a magical budget that will solve all of our problems with rainbows and bunnies and snowflakes, and it will just rain manna from the sky. And I was like, listen, we're in a bad spot, right? We're not going to just wave a wand and fix it. And then we got some messaging, oh, we can't do everything for everybody, and you can't please everybody. And of course, the slogan was littered into the budget. But I think a lot of the public came away not necessarily, as Shane pointed out, they're not feeling that this is an austerity budget, that this is we had to tighten our belt and buckle our bootstraps, and this Great Depression and New Deal and infrastructure projects, hard labor. What do you make, or what can you tell us about the government's policy? Because it seems as though they were ready to kind of warn people, don't expect the world, but the presentation did kind of give us a lot. It gave a lot to a lot of people, so of course, there's the social media commentary. But for someone like me, I'm like, I like some of the things, I'm just concerned that perhaps it's giving too much.
Well, okay, so one of the things, well, let's just cast our mind back to other budgets where, on budget day, every morning they go to the gas station because they expect the price to rise. In fact, if you did that today, well, tough luck for you. You wasted your money, right? So, right? So I mean, this and that really illustrates what this budget is about. When Keith Rowley came into government in 2015, Natalie Legore asked him on another station. I won't say your ad, right? So she asked about the wealth gap between the rich and the poor. It was widening, and what did the government intend to do about it? He said he doesn't see it as a problem. The rich should get richer. And then she gave him a second bite of the cherry later on, not even in the same interview. She said, well, you said that you don't mind the rich getting richer, and that's an outdated concept, and he doubled down on it, right? So for him, the rich getting richer was, the whole thing about decreasing the wealth gap was outdated. For us, not at all. That's what the theme of the budget was TNT first, achieving responsibility through and accountability through fiscal policies, through appropriate fiscal policies. And what I was saying is that we need to rebalance the economy, right? So, and so you'll see it's landlords, right? Not property tax on everybody and charging people an imaginary rental value.
Why did you when you said that?
No, look at me. I'm neutral.
Ready to fight. But yeah. So it's for landlords. So not an annual rental value, and you're not renting your house and you have to pay a tax on that. It's no. If you are renting your house, then you pay.
Some of the rent.
Right. And then the balancing the NIS. So we're tackling the economic problem, but in a balanced way, and also when the government was reducing the fuel subsidy. And Colin Mimber was laughing, which is totally disgusting. But what Keith Rowley said in the Parliament at the time was that every month they're going to publish what the international gas price is, and then they'll make it public, gazette it, and then the prices will change. It never did. It just went up and up and up. And in fact, the government has been overcharging because the price of oil went down. And so what we're doing is we're not even increasing the subsidy. Right. What we're doing is we're being fair. We're putting the gas price down because international prices have gone down. So it's about fairness. That's
okay,
right.
Well, I just have to say to that. That is why I'm concerned about the price that the government has put to oil at over $70-something, which I can't see that as being I don't think that is a reasonable position, and also too with natural gas. I mean,
on what basis do you think
because
that the oil prices is
well,
not
if I'm
reasonable?
looking, I mean, I read, I'm
At
not
the
an
Brent?
economist.
The
No, I
Brent
don't. I
price?
just read all the articles about where they think, they're talking
Because
about. What they look at
Yeah.
is they say increased inventory, they say that oversupply. They've said that, of course, Saudi Arabia is going to pull back a little bit so that they keep the prices at a certain level. But I don't see the price of oil, gas going more between $64 and $65.
This is what the technocrats have advised. And one of the criticisms that was put is they were looking at Brent crude prices and stuff. But what is it? It's a basket of prices.
I know it is.
And then also what we see online with the daily fluctuation, that's the spot market. We're not spot trading oil.
I understand that, but based on antecedents,
Yeah.
meaning that one of the reasons why we run deficits nearly every single year, including when the current government was in government, was because they have overstated the revenue take, both in terms of production and price. And what I'm saying is that looking at it and having been in the position, you tend to try to take a conservative position, mainly because when there's a media review, it gives you some wiggle room to make an adjustment. Now, sometimes, I think part of the reason they haven't done this in this case, especially with natural gas prices, I really think that is an overstatement, time will tell, but it is because they don't want to put any money into the HSF, because we know what the HSF says, right? So that is
again, that's the PNM accusing the UNC of doing their okay. In this sense, I'm not saying you're PNM, but this is what the opposition said in their press conference.
I don't even hear
that's exactly what
I
you
will
said.
say that. Let me just redirect. When Karen, I have criticisms, I can guarantee you she has said this about the Keith Rowley administration. So, generally speaking.
So, listen, that's my opinion, okay? It's my opinion. And guess why it's my opinion too? Because I was Minister of Finance. So maybe there's basis upon which I can make that statement. I don't know. You have to tell me. So I am making that statement, and I know how they come to the price, and they usually take a conservative position, so that when they come to the media review, all those ministries that came to you when they asked to meet with you. Oh my gosh.
You just contradicted yourself, because you're saying they normally take a conservative position, but then you earlier said that they overstated and they come back in the media review.
Can I just say, my goodness, I said, let me just be clear, I was saying that when I was there, my understanding was that we would take a conservative position because you wanted to give yourself some wiggle rooms in order to adjust the media review and give ministries more than they'd asked for, hoping that things got better. I was not part of the Rowley government, and that was one of the things that was said. It was said that they did not want. Well, this is what. So why are you accusing me of anything? I am just saying that under the Rowley administration, the impression one got, and I think it was said, is they kept the prices.
That's right.
Because they didn't want to put
every time. During the media review.
So don't be so sensitive. And I just want to say one thing again, just before, because I think I'm being. But Shane is being so sweet. Thank you, Shane. The other thing I want to say is with the CARICOM, there's an opportunity that this government had on the demand side to reduce the use of, well, de-dollarization has taken off like, I mean, my God, all that thing that's going on in Venezuela and Iran and so on, it's really about de-dollarization, because these BRICS, it's amazing what's going on with gold. Anyway, let me come back to the point. The point is that a lot of these, starting with the African settlement and payment system, BRICS is doing a similar arrangement, and then you had CARICOM with the payment system. Why didn't we implement it? Barbados has done it. What's the other? Bahamas has done it. There are about 3 countries that did it, and the purpose of that is we want to encourage trade within the CARICOM. And I think the idea is, instead of having to use US dollars to settle trade, you use your own currency, each other's currency. And I can't understand why the central bank governor, when he was told about it, it has really been encouraged that we should adopt it. All he said was it was interesting.
Okay. Is it a situation, though, that from a political perspective, that I understand what you're saying about that dollar part, and we're paying in our own currency. But we have to take into consideration that 9 years after, and we have to go back to 9 years after. 9 years after, the dollar is not stronger than it should be. It's not strong as it should be. I mean, let's be real. This man, Gonzalez, Ralph Gonzalez, not too long ago said that Trinidad's dollar is worth nothing. So one of the things I think we need to take into consideration. No, and that's the thing. He wanted to be paid in US dollars. That's Ralph Gonzalez. Exactly. Ralph wants to be paid in US dollars. It seems as though
for the interest of time, I do want to cut to the chase here. CARICOM, because there's a lot of debate about is CARICOM united?
No, and it should not be. And Trinidad should be Trinidad and Tobago first, and we should be able to say. And I support Kamala Prasad-Bisesa saying that listen, all they need to wait.
I mean, I'll say this, Dr. Ram. Now, in theory, I think you and I would agree. In theory, if we take all of the international politics out of it, a united CARICOM would provide something more than just the individual countries. But unfortunately, it seems as though everybody has their agenda. And I guess to what extent should we sacrifice our own?
No. But listen,
I think we're starting to confuse the regional debate with the geopolitics as well, right? Undoubtedly, when it comes to economics, we are tied to CARICOM. There are some of the rest of CARICOM offers us huge markets for our manufactured products, and we have to be cognizant and mindful of that. That is not going to change. I think some of this discussion, we can be Trinidad first and yet also be a regional powerhouse. I don't see why we have to choose one or the other, because everyone else in CARICOM is doing that. They're looking after their own interests, but also being.
It's a matter of
how does it fit into today's budget, though?
So we're getting there.
We'll get back there.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So I think what you're also asking is, because we didn't hear that much around regional integration and of course trade within. I think that's going to come out. Again, we have to understand that one of the reasons why we need to make this economy much more competitive is because we have a great opportunity because of the tariff within CARICOM. We have a great opportunity to be selling much more of what we produce here into other CARICOM markets, and we have to do that and focus on that. I think it's just politics that's happening here, and the rest just, and we don't need to be confused by that, because you know that the members of the TTMA, the Chamber of Commerce, they would all support us having strong economic relations with the rest of CARICOM.
Isn't CARICOM a good, not to say a stepping stone to exploit, but it's a good first step so that we as various economies could grow our export industries with each other first and then look to the world after, right? As opposed to trying to compete.
Of course. The first market must be domestic, where you are ensuring that your local products are king and queens here, and then we go out to CARICOM and then to the rest of the world. CARICOM provides us with those sort of economies of scale, some additional economies of scale to test our products before we can then go out to the wider global market. But let me just also say this. We have to be cognizant that you saw recently where Barbados, Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent, 4 CARICOM countries now have free movement of labor of all of their citizens. You don't have to have a skill. You can move freely now. That's the way that we need to be moving. And eventually, I think Trinidad and Tobago will have to join that free movement of labor initiative, because there are people here in Trinidad and Tobago who have the skills that can be utilized much more efficiently in other CARICOM markets. And similarly, now that we are trying to improve our tourism product, why not get some other CARICOM nationals who have great experience in tourism to come in here and to help us boost our tourism industry? That's how it has to happen. We expand the opportunities for our people, because right now, Trinidad and Tobago is the only legal labor market for most of our people. Why not expand the opportunity for them to go out there and to also work in other markets?
But CSME allows us to do that. CSME allows us to be able to move within the region. That has been established. We have people who are moving from Trinidad and Tobago up the region and back and forth.
No. CSME currently, as it stands for Trinidad and Tobago nationals, You have to be skilled or within certain professions. It does not allow the free movement. So if you look at our labor force participation rate, labor force participation, a low labor force participation rate is actually a problem of youth unemployment in Trinidad and Tobago. When you look at the numbers by age cohort, many of those people can't get the type of jobs here that perhaps they could get in another territory in the Caribbean. If we had that free movement of labor that is not restricted by skill, then many of these people might be able to find jobs in other CARICOM territories if we had that free movement of labor.
No, but stick up in. Hold on. But that's also a conversation that we had earlier today, and the conversation was that the unskilled labor force in Trinidad and Tobago, we've been struggling with that because it has been supplemented by the majority of Venezuelan persons who have come to Trinidad and Tobago and others. And the problem, part of the discussion was, how do we get the unskilled persons? And this ties into the culture that was created through CPEP and URP, that this was an easy getaway with working for a short period. We had deviated from a lot of our moorings.
Before we run out of time, I do want to get to a big point. Now, Dr. Faith Brebner was supposed to be with us, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. She was in transition, I believe, after being with the teacher contingent, I assume, with the budget reading. But one of the things I found interesting was the Minister of Finance, he referenced some of the talking points of the Tobago People's Party and their vision for Tobago and incorporated that in the budget. So first of all, there's two things. One, the fact that Tobago's getting 5%, just on they're going to deal with, plus another 700 and change million on the top, so it's really 6 point something % of the budget. But then also how this budget was crafted, essentially using some of the ideas of a whole other political party, which I think if you went 10 years in the past and with all of the history with Trinidad politics and how it affects Tobago, to say that now we could see something like this. I know some people might have the detractors, but look, baby steps, right? To me, I think it's a good sign of saying, look, it might be a baby step to say collaboration and working together, but it's still working together.
Well, I mean, this has always been the history of the UNC, went from Robinson and Pandey in the NAR, and then later with the UNC-NAR coalition in '95, with the People's Partnership. You had Top and Ashworth Jack, and so this is really just following the pattern of the UNC. It's not the PNM way of doing it. It has been the UNC way. Why do you laugh when I say that? You have some residual identification.
No,
I thought you laughed.
No, because look, I find you put too much emphasis on party politics rather than the country politics.
Is the question.
No,
but
I don't think he wants to talk. Okay.
No. Okay, so let's get to the Tobago.
It's not surprising for the UNC.
You know what? I'm not surprised you're the PRO for the UNC.
And he's doing his job, but let's get to the allocation. What can you tell me about that? Because of course Tobago wanted more than 4% for a while, and this is basically within the TPP's memory.
And not only is it you talk about input from the TPP, but we had budget consultations throughout the country, and our budget is greatly informed by what we were getting in all the constituencies. You know, so one of the things, everybody was saying, do not raise gas prices. So we even went further. We not only did not raise it, we lowered it. Right? So many of the ideas in our budget comes from the consultations that every year we did while we were in opposition, and we continued to do it while we were in government. And so that is our modus operandi.
I'm not going to ask you the question.
Okay.
But I will. But because I asked this, I think before Stuart Young, by the way, right? But I will ask: will we get at least some of the answer to the question of how are you going to pay for all of this? Because that's the one thing. Like again, we got an overview. We got an interesting revenue number, of which I think it's one of those things where it seems as though what is oil revenue, what is energy revenue, what is non-energy revenue, or non-oil energy, on which term do you use, on which budget, and how does it go?
This will definitely come out in the debate, right?
Okay.
I mean, this will come out in the debate, and whenever, you know, and when it wraps up, because the Minister of Finance will give the final statement, so the Leader of Opposition will give her statement on Friday, and then next week the Prime Minister will give her statement, and then all the ministers will be giving theirs, and they'll be talking about, I mean, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Tourism is extremely important because that's essentially the Ministry of Diversification. Right?
That's
and
true. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. And then the Ministry of Energy, of course, is another one. So those are really the only two ministries that raise revenue. The finance through taxes, but that's really shifting money from citizens' pockets to the government's pockets, which doesn't increase the pie. So in terms of economic growth, it's energy and the new, because remember tourism was with culture in the last administration.
Yeah.
So now the whole point of putting tourism with trade and industry is to really make this the Ministry of Diversification.
You should have called it that.
And those two.
You should have called it that because, to be honest with you, when I saw them put tourism and trade and things, I said, my God, that's a lot of things just to put into one ministry, and is that minister with another minister going to handle all that portfolio? I didn't think that was, but now you're saying the Ministry of Diversity, maybe well, it was not what they said. And coming back to your energy point, let me just say this, and have I not spoken about this at length on this show? Number one, I have said that I do think that what the Prime Minister was able to accomplish, given the environment in which he's operating with the Trump and the active hostility and so on, that was a great accomplishment. Similarly, under the PNM administration, I have to say that at least they did achieve it. So give Jack his jacket. Without that, you would not be talking about Dragonfield. Yeah, so that's the one. And second one, ExxonMobil. If you want the worst global partner in the oil and gas business to do business with is ExxonMobil. Wait, let me say it because anybody who's listening, go to Wikipedia. Anybody who's listening, go to Kaita News. Those people, ExxonMobil has such a terrible reputation. They've, in terms of not supporting climate change, saying it was not true. They did, it was a lie. In terms of green energy, they did not give the support of the 5%, they gave 1%. They did everything. They supported Indonesia militia. In Guyana, they took so much advantage of those people. You ask them 2% royalties and then 75% recovery costs, and then they're coming with, when you look, and 25% split half and half. When you look at it, they paid no corporate tax. Now they knew, no, because that is what you are the one that said energy is the backbone. You are the one that said it. And I am saying to you, that's another thing that I took exception to. The Ginger Project, which is why 2027 is going to be the turnaround in this country, is the PNM administration responsible for the BBTT, saying that's one of the 10 global natural gas projects, global, 2027. Aphrodite, the PNM. No. Mento is them, and SIP. And somebody said SIP.
I want to raise one very important point that you raised.
Yes.
Which is that we've been dogged with an issue of multinationals, energy multinationals, withholding funds that our government is entitled to through transfer pricing. And this has been going on for decades. And this is the first time a government has now, and that could be about $17 billion.
Okay, well, let me just close out.
That is not true.
Let me just close on this segment.
I will show you a budget in which Colin Imbert spoke about transfer pricing, said what it was going to do, but the only thing is they read and ready and were never ready. But they spoke about at least 2 or 3 times transfer. So do not give the credit. And by the way, this government did not, I listened to the transfer pricing point, and they did not expand on it. They did nothing better than the PNM. No, but you're making it the PRO.
So much lightning. Quick. I want to just get this quick. Dr. Ram and then Dr. Mohammed, with regards to how this budget, of course, the energy sector is always the backbone, right? Was there any takeaways with regards to maybe the government's emphasis on it, or how maybe it might look going forward? Because it seems like they're relying on some of those projects coming in 2027, right? Hopefully they'll make it through. I don't know if Dragon was included on that. What are your just quick takeaways on the energy sector, and is there hope on the horizon that it will really turn things around?
Well, I'd rather not speak on the energy sector right now. I think our focus has to be on non-energy and diversification.
Okay.
And in fact, the increase in the budget allocation for Tobago, I am hoping, is actually a very good thing, because as part of this diversification drive, Tobago has to be play a big part in that, yes, because of tourism. Mm-hmm. It's left to be seen where the 5% and then the 700 million on top of that, where it's going to be spent. But I imagine it's going to be spent on improving infrastructure and improving the overall look and feel of Tobago, which will now make it much more attractive for many more visitors. Because the Minister of Finance did say that the new airport will be operationalized, yes, in the second quarter of 2026. And then on top of that, we'll now have direct flights from the United States directly to Tobago. For me, those are good signals. So I'm really hoping that the increase in the budget allocation for Tobago is also showing us that they are spending the money where their vision is. Because tourism and the importance of tourism for the production of other sectors, because the feedback loops with regard to agriculture and manufacturing also going to be critical.
I mean, at the press conference just now, where I just came from in Parliament, Farley Augustine addressed that in particular, and he lamented that the allocations given previously only covered salaries and they had no capital expenditure.
Yes.
It was just current expenditure all the time, and now they can finally pay attention to the capital investment needed for the tourism and others.
I'm going to put you a little bit of spot because I need to give Dr. Mount some time, but do we underestimate as a society traditionally tourism? Yes or no?
Of course we do. Of course we do. And you know what's sad about that? Because of all the Caribbean countries, we probably have the best tourism product that we can offer anyone. Culturally, gastronomically, and of course we have the sand and sea, and we have the ecotourism as well. There's so much that Trinidad and Tobago can offer. That I think, unfortunately, we have been burned because we had oil and gas. We didn't need to focus on that. But the time has come for us to do it. And I think of any island in the Caribbean, we have the best product possible.
And you'll hear the minister when he speaks. Definitely, he has said this over and over again, that he wants to make tourism central to the Trinidad economy, not only the Tobago economy, but also to Trinidad.
Trinidad, this is hovering. I don't know if you have anything to follow up.
I agree with Justin. I think the government should stay on the path towards diversification. It is a major driver of economic development. We have heard for too long that the oil is running out, and we need to move away from just dependence on oil. And I'm looking forward to hearing what the rest of the budget presentation and debate sounds like, because I think there's interesting things to come out of the different sectors. I am extremely excited, though, because I did listen to the Secretary for Finance this morning, and she did talk about that recurrent expenditure budgeting that they got for several years that really chokehold them into doing not very much. And we should be able to give Tobago the opportunity to make some decisions, and if not all decisions, in Tobago's interest, and let us push that tourism drive that they have been wanting for the longest while. That comes with the airport, that comes with the airlines, that comes with pushing everything for them. So yes, I agree on definitely keeping and steering the ship towards greater diversification.
I think this is a guess, but that $700+ million, I think, might actually be like twice as much as the developmental capital that the ministries outside of the airport would have put in year on year into Tobago, right? So it is a considerable increase. Let's see what the product could do out of it. All right, we have to take a break. We have some new people to come in to add to the discussion, some new perspectives, and more. Stay tuned. Our financial future. It begins today, but what does it mean? We'll be right back after this.
The season of lights is bright and tasty with Royal Castle's delightful veggie burger made with a healthy and nutritious patty. It's great on its own or in a combo with one side and a 16-ounce drink. So whether it's lunch, dinner or a snack, Royal Castle's Veggie Burger fits right in with your fasting and festivities. Happy Diwali from Royal Castle.
My mom has been shopping here for the last 15 years. So coming here with her, now I have my own family.
The variety of items, cleanliness of the place, the spaciousness.
My favorite section is household.
My husband loves the hardware section and the auto section. My favorite would be stationery.
Price Club is the low price leading supermarket in TNT.
They are the best. I would recommend Price Club to anybody.
Diwali time again. Come to Prem Singh's Puja Bhavan for all your Diwali essentials. Get your clay diyas, cotton wicks, floating wicks, beautifully decorated imported diyas. And now in stock, our long-lasting, easy-lighting wax diyas. Fasting? We have frozen vegetarian meals, exciting Indian spices and grocery items, decorated mithai boxes, prasad bags, freshly ground elaichi powder, and paper sohari leaves. And don't forget our popular, tasty, mouth-watering mithai. We have simple Diwali Puja guides on CD with a Puja handout, and our helpful staff will assist you with all the required ingredients to perform your Diwali Puja. Get great deals on lantern decorations, electric diya string lights, and Happy Diwali decorations. Visit us at the corner of Watt Street, Kirep, or at St. Ives Street, Chaguanas, opposite the Charleville taxi stand, or call 663-6084. Prem Singh's Puja Bhavan. It's a family tradition, serving the nation and Dharma. Lakshmi Mata's divine blessings to all. For your convenience, both branches are open on Sundays until Diwali.
In Hinduism, cow's milk is revered, and from the finest milk comes our ghee. When offered into the sacred fire, cow ghee carries our prayers to the deities, unlike processed vegetable ghee. From your devotion to your delicious dishes, you can trust Anchor Cow Brand Ghee. For all occasions, use the best ghee. Enjoy the best food and delicacies, and have the best Diwali with Anchor Cow Brand Ghee.
Lighting up for Diwali just got simple with the easy-to-use Anand brand wax diyas. They're scientifically engineered to last longer, burn brighter, and keep on lighting. Anand brand wax diyas do not require any prepping or filling and has less spillage and cleanup. These diyas are recommended for outdoor use and can withstand light wind and rain. Plus, they're eco-friendly. Redeem your use cases for cash back. So put some green innovation into your Diwali celebrations with Anand brand wax diyas.
My name is Dr. Joanne Williams Carroll, and I am the Director of Behavioral and Mental Health at the Community Hospital. At the Community Hospital, we believe in nurturing mind, body, and soul. Through our counseling and chaplaincy program, we will provide you with support and strength you need to help with your mental and emotional well-being. Give us a call.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
And we're back here on WSN. This is Our Financial Future, and Dr. Kirk Mayhew and Dr. Shay Mohammed is now, as well as yours truly, we are now joined by a youth advocate and a youth parliamentarian alumni, Nicholas Rampasad and Chris Hossain, respectively. Gentlemen, welcome to the panel. Of course, we've had 5.5 hours. Now, the experienced gentlemen, right, might have fared better, but I want to ask you all, as younger folk, how was that 5.5 hour marathon session?
It was good. No, but I'm refreshed because I sat in Parliament for the last budget and was thoroughly bored, sorry to say. So it was refreshing to know that we stuck to the point, we got to the point quickly. But yeah, definitely a change from how it was done the last time.
Chris, thoughts?
I think, so my takeaway from the budget, I felt a bit more optimistic, but of course it came with a bit of caution, and so I am looking forward to the rest of the debate and to hear from the line ministers account for how they intend to utilize the allocations.
Now, is it just because, it feels to me, the last administration almost Xeroxed their budget in. It was only the last one where they said, oh, we'll have this thing, we will start to sell assets to try to make up the shortfall, right? Other than that, it was kind of the same philosophy, kind of the same allocations. Now, the allocations are similar here, but a lot of the meat, not everything was to the same amount of detail. Some of it were kind of, okay, what exactly do you mean? Others, there were specific numbers and figures given for certain initiatives. Was that what you meant where it was refreshing?
Yeah, it was. When I look at the last budget compared to this budget, you wonder, we have the technocrats more or less still in place. What happened? We had a change in administration, so ministers would have changed, but the technocrats, the PSAs would have more or less remained the same. So my thought is that what changed then to now, so that now we have solutions, so to speak, and back then it was so doom and gloom, right? For me, like Chris said, optimistically, you're cautiously optimistic, but it's trending in the right direction. I felt the budget was more people-centered, people-friendly, because the average person, you felt with the last administration, it was a little out of touch with reality, out of touch with the average citizen. So for me personally, as a young person, it felt refreshing. What was also even more heartening for me was that I saw public consultations happening in pockets in constituencies with ministers, and that to me says that even if it was just for PR, right, but it said to me that they're serious about it, let's go hear what the citizens have to say, and it was translated to a certain effect in the national budget. So.
All right, so this goes to our three young contributors here, because Dr. Mohammed, as much as your experience outweighs your actual chronological age, you're still connected to the youth It seems as though I'm getting a lot of feedback, as Dr. Mohammed mentioned, some of the feedback he got as well from people that he knows. For younger people, this budget is a bit more hopeful, more in line with either things that they could appreciate, things that they could grasp and get some positive takeaways from. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. You see, the thing about it is, there's going to always be that issue of the narrative being a comparison of the 9 years. And the problem is that for 9 years you heard problems. Here you are in 2025. We're not denying, the government has not denied that there are issues. I mean, there's a definite need towards diversification and in all the various sectors. But a very good point that you made is that, so Nikolai talked about hearing when, and you talked about hearing the last government talk about one way of raising revenue is about selling off our assets. And here's the contrast in the 2026 budget is that there's going to be a real estate endorsement trust. Yeah. So that is a solution. That is the Minister of Finance as the government saying, no, we don't sell our assets. We find ways in which to make money off of their assets without selling it off and selling off what our birthright. And that was one of the issues that I was...
Can I add something there?
Yeah.
It's not only we're going to make money off it, but every citizen is going to get a chance because everybody can now buy a share in this corporation. So all these government buildings, all these rental properties, every citizen individually can make money off it too. So that's what it is. So it's also expanding participation in the state assets.
I'll tell you something about that point that you're making though. I really look forward to that being effectively communicated because that is actually gold. Yeah. For young people, that is gold for citizens. That is actually saying to citizens that we are empowering you by giving you what you rightfully own a share in, so right?
I want to go to that because ironically, I have one piece of negative feedback from a relatively young person who is still concerned about their job. Yeah. Right?
Can I just jump in? The Prime Minister gave it a little away just now in the Parliament when she gave her press briefing. And in fact, she said more than she should have. But when she gives her presentation, I'm telling you, it's going to be about jobs and young people and not CPEP and URP. She identified there are 8,000 jobs that we've already identified that need immediate filling, and you will see when she makes her presentation, immediately we're going to spring into action and everybody is going to get a chance immediately to fill those.
But Nicola, I don't know if you were one that may have been concerned. I know that we had gates, a lot of people get educated, but the goalposts on the requirements just moved, right? Because we didn't really structure a plan around how to move gate. Do you have more confidence now that, okay, my future is no longer a rat race where I need to hamstring the guy next to me and figure out all kind of tricks and networking and now that it's a bit more stable of where I could go from here?
Yeah. Personally, I felt as though that I utilized the GATE program under the last administration, right? And I felt as though it was, I had to compete to get an education. Being brutally honest with you as a young person, it was very discouraging. So I think that restructuring the GATE, because we have to be real, there are young persons who misuse the program. Let's be realistic about it. And this is taxpayers' money. This is money that we ourselves in the future would have to pay, right? So I do think that restructuring is a good thing. Having checks and balances in place, right? But it's more accessible, which is something that I am totally on board with. In terms of the jobs, I'm a contract employee at a ministry, so job security is a big thing for me. I am always wondering, in a change in government, would I lose my job or not, right? I'm not politically affiliated, but we know the culture of the country in which we live. So to hear the Minister of Finance say that approximately 40% of the contracted staff will be absorbed into the public service or given a pensionable post, that's encouraging for me as a contract employee in the government service. So like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic, but it's a refreshing feeling to hear that, yes, we admit as a government that on the economic side of things, we have work to do. The country is in a state where work is required, but this is what we are going to do to make things better. We know that it wouldn't happen in one fiscal year, let's be real, right? It'll take a period of time, but in the interim, this is what we're prepared to do at this level.
Chris, yeah, you could follow up, and then I have another question.
So for me, I also utilized GATE to pursue my tertiary education. I had no issue with utilizing GATE. I don't know at the time that you used it, but the time that I would have used it, there would have been a means test involved. Right. So there were checks and balances, and you had to, your university that you would have been applying to, it had to be on the list and accredited in a certain amount of way. And by the way, also you had to maintain a certain level of GPA to get the funding. So a lot of persons believed that GATE in the previous administration was a free-for-all, but it really wasn't, at least in the past 5 years, right?
Okay, yes.
Now, I know that the United National Congress, along the journey to governance, they would have spoken about the expansion of GATE. So I'm looking on to hear what the Minister of, I assume, tertiary education would have to say about how they intend to expand it. I know that the current Prime Minister now would have spoken about removing the padlock on GATE. So, you know, those things are etched in my mind. Well, what can that, when you say those things on the platforms, how does that convert to public policy? And so I'm looking on again with optimism. But one of the things that I was looking for, I know that before we went on air, we were just briefly discussing professionally. So I'm an engineer, a young professional. And so I didn't hear any mention of Petrotrin. So that was something that I know that would have been...
The refinery.
Yeah, the refinery. That would have been something that we would have heard during the political season for the election. Again, I'm looking on to the rest of the budget. So I'm not trying to preempt to say, well, there, nothing to say about the refinery, you know. But again, I'm looking forward to hear a bit more on the refinery because, again, we're talking about jobs. We're talking about jobs for young people. We're talking about jobs for persons who also would have suffered from the closure of Petrotrin.
I mean, I'm trying not to bash the previous administration, but there's two things with the refinery. One, the fact that, and I agreed questioning Jindal, why is this a good idea, right? Not that he's automatically someone not to do business with, but it's fair to ask the questions, right? Just ask any question. And he should have known himself, I'm going to get these questions. I'm a public figure, right? So I actually think he was never really that interested personally because of how quick he ran. And I remember someone saying essentially because of the situation in the refinery, this might basically be the type of partner or buyer that we might be looking at. And now it comes to the question, you know, do we want to do that? Do we not want to do that? The flip side, sorry, not the flip side, the other part is just the fact that it's been in mothballs for so long. It just makes it harder to restart. It's one of those things, it's like, it snowballs. It gets worse and worse the longer it goes on. And I guess, I think it was Kevin Ramarine that was looking at it. The only issue I have with that is we just haven't heard anything recently, and I can't say if he's taking too long or not. I mean, his work speaks for itself. It's just one of those things where, unfortunately, and this is a little bit unfair, but I've said this with regards to the police and even with regards to government, sometimes you just have to take the unfairness. He's working against the clock. Because the longer it goes on, the kind of the worse the situation might be, unfortunately.
But to Kevin's defense as well, is that when Kevin was Minister of Energy, one of the things that he did in the coming down to the end of his tenure is that the assets on the refinery was brand new. There was installation of new equipment, new gadgets, whatever you want to call it. And I happened to be on the compound with one of my friends a couple of weeks ago, and there is work happening in terms of getting the compound prepared. I stand by what I say when we are fools to destroy our assets. We are fools to sell our birthright. I will not drop the point on what we did to Caroni 1975 Limited, and we still have an opportunity to save those assets by agriculture.
Let me add to what you're saying. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, you know, and this is getting back into history. There's this narrative that we started with a blank slate in 1962, and we built everything, and that we were nothing. And that's not true. We were a very prosperous colony in 1962 that became independent with a hundred, well, it wasn't 100 years old at the time, but one of the oldest oil industries in the world, a highly developed sugar industry, a railway system, an intelligent population, a vibrant culture, right? So we didn't start from nothing, and we sold off the Caroni. We shut down the railway. And it's not we, it's one party did all of that. Shut down the railway, shut down Caroni.
You can't fight with him on that point. They can't fight with him on that point. And the thing about it is...
But the thing I want to add is, so you talk about these assets, which we are looking to revive. Another one is the Caroni Racing Complex, which you talked about. And that's all the corruption of the PNM. That was one of the hugest scandals in our history. The Caroni Racing Complex, that's O'Halloran. And now,
you can take the PRO out of...
No, but
you can't take the
that is true, because the point is that we have so many distressed assets in this country. You drive around, there are buildings rotting, there are foundations, nothing is being done. Empty warehouses. This is unused capital, and we are, and I'm telling you, this government is looking at all of that because it's there, unused, and we are going to build on it. And one of the first things that was announced today was a world-class conference center on the remains of that Caroni Racing Complex in partnership with the TTMA, and I know the foreign firms and companies that are also involved in it. It is something very important. And so building on we have tons of assets here that have just like how we have all these rotting schools all over the country. It's not just schools, it's factories, it's...
I'll say this, I really felt uneasy with the whole idea we'll deal with the deficit by selling assets. I was like, that's nice, we ain't gonna have those assets to sell next year. What was the plan then? But I don't know if you want to add to something, Chris.
So I'm listening to the discussion, and there's something that I wanted to mention. So I know that so far the budget has been, I think, received quite well, amongst different areas, young people.
I stay away from internet.
However,
because I value my sanity.
I know my Tobagonian friends. I had a conversation, a number of them, extremely happy. But again, as a young person, maybe it might be a Gen Z thing. I cannot not think about what the future would look like in terms of debt for my generation. And so that is something that I feel as though we might be happy right now, how sustainable, and I'm not saying it is not sustainable, I'm saying that those are things we must consider as this government continues to sit in governance for at least 5 years.
No, but I am happy that you are saying it, because let me tell you this. I agree. So you said something, I was thinking, it is one thing to be happy with a budget. It is one thing, so I was also explaining to Dr. Justice Ram that it is important to understand where we came from to where we are, and not just as a people, as a nation. And one of the things is that we've heard for so long that our world, Trinidad and Tobago, was coming to an end. Right? So there was a false messiah that was coming to end our world, Trinidad and Tobago, as we know it. Now, whether we want to talk about it from a political perspective and blame one party or blame the other, the point remains is that what you are saying is a very critical thing, because the young people are happy now in 2025 going into fiscal 2026. But the UNC as a government and as a party needs to understand that they are on a high. That high must be sustained. And I could tell you from understanding the whole leadership trust, when you're climbing, you're going to plateau at some point in time. And when you plateau, you have to have a plan to continue climbing, because it's about now sustaining the power that you have attained.
Because Dr. Ram did say, you can't give cookies and then do austerity later. It's a hell of a...
So some of the other things, I mean, we discussed the great things so far, but some of my other concerns would have been, when we look at landlords, I mean, that can trickle down to, the tenants.
Could I just put something there? Because that is an issue that you have to think about, and we thought about it. Now, so when we have this registry, right, so basically all the landlords, first of all, it protects the renters, right, so that you can't have, immigrants like Venezuelans staying in substandard places. So there are regulations there. But another thing that's very important, it's going to create a market for the first time for a rental market, and a true free market, because everybody who registers, the rental value will be publicly available. So you could see in ARIMA what's the rent, what are the different rents charged, because right now it's not transparent. You don't have a market when there's no transparency. You have to see what are the different prices, and then you can choose. And so what this will do, and in addition to the decrease in construction material costs, right? So what we are looking for is an increase in accommodation and housing. So housing for people who own, and then also, for renters as well. And then we will have this transparent market. So now you can look at what different people are charging for rent, and that will actually create a proper market. And we are looking at all this to actually decrease rents over time. So that's the thinking behind it.
Yeah,
so I know the fear is that it's going to pass on to the tenant, and that probably will happen in the short run. But what we are looking to do is lower rents for everybody and create a true market.
They do have some properties though, like in certain areas, well-established areas, where the state of the property and the rent for the property is really low. So it doesn't quite kind of translate to what like a new building and its rent would.
So whilst I understand the intention with the new properties, I'm speaking about the persons who currently rent. And there are many persons who have been renting their entire life. And so you all can appreciate that for some of these tenants who currently, these real people, right? Not ghosts. These real people may have to pay an increased rent.
I think this is the lesson from property tax. You have to be careful how you implement a thing that doesn't seem to have clear, this is the guidelines, this is the standards, this is the process, this is how we derive these things, right? Because part of the property tax, this is actual direct experience. We have properties in the same community. They are next to each other. They have the same dimensions. They have the same color paint. They have the same brand of paint. They have the same size bedroom, bathroom, everything. Same tile, same everything. Different valuations.
Okay, right. No, but no, this is not about valuations.
I know.
Right.
But I'm just saying, so whatever you implement, it's just one of those things where to get consistency, transparency, and a proper process people can understand.
And one of the reasons why you have situations like that is because there's a lack of transparency. So people, hide prices and you don't really know. I was talking to, one of the advisors today about this. Trinidad really is one of the only places in the world where someone will advertise something on sale and not give a price. And that makes no sense. They say this car for sale or this property for sale and no price, land for sale, telephone number. That's it.
I don't want to get stuck on this point, but I guess we could, that's a whole kettle of fish with our consumer, retail, industry culture.
We need to go to price regulation. That's a fact across the board. Across the board.
And transparency. When you have transparency, then you can have competition.
Okay, but Chris, I don't know if you have something quick to finish up before I want to move on to another point.
I was also happy to hear conversations about AI and that sort of infrastructure. Of course, I'm looking forward to hear the Minister of Public Admin roll out more. So this is going to be a policy-centric conversation. But here's my little issue. If we were to look at the previous administration, their last budget, maybe the budget before, they had a few nuggets about digital transformation, but the problem was implementation and execution. And so, though the text looks good, it's optimistic, right? But I'm cautious. Because can we implement? What is the length of period we're looking at? What are the financial indicators? How will we know we're achieving success?
My biggest issue is when you hear buzzwords and the person is saying buzzwords because you could tell you don't fully understand the context of that.
Correct.
Now, I wanted to move on though, because as we were talking about gates and how it might be expanded potentially, but there were a lot of, if you look at it in this presentation, littered throughout, various aspects of youth development, more skills training for the teachers, etc., etc. Like, what do you all make of that? My only thing is, do we have a plan to go along with these things, or is it just like Gate 1.0 where we just kind of do a thing?
Right. So this is where we need to get into our education curriculum. What is the outcome that we are trying to achieve with the education system? What type of citizen do we want to create at the end of secondary school or at the end of tertiary? So we need to start having that conversation and reforming.
What I think, because I've been saying for about 2 to 3 years, the most underestimated problem in the country, I think, is the education system. So
Sean,
good luck.
Sean, I'll tell you another thing as well. I find it interesting, and I'll use the word interesting, that we are supplementing all of these small little programs that really is supposed to be a holistic education. So we really need to look at the system, you know. Budget after budget, I've never really spoken about monies, you know. I just think we can utilize what we have in a better way. So that's why I told you I'm looking at the line ministers.
The thing about it is that, okay, we're going to implement the programs, right? But if we don't solve the real problem, which is, okay, after you get the education, you don't have a job.
Well, okay, but hold on. What he spoke about today, specifically as it pertains to training and development, he was very specific, and we have to give him credit for that. So he was speaking about a whole new revamped Customs and Excise Department.
Yeah.
And what he is doing is he's making our Customs and Excise Department very much aligned to what the American system looks like. And to be honest with you, it's about high time we went that direction.
Yeah.
So the training and development that he's talking about isn't going to just be ad hoc. It's going to be training and development for personnel and persons within the framework of Customs and Excise who wants a career in Customs and Excise going forward. And I anticipate that Customs and Excise is going to go way beyond its role and function. And if that's where the direction is to take Customs and Excise, then yes, we are aligning with the American system, which we ought to have been doing. That's one. Then the other part that he's talking about with regard to training and development, which he went really in depth about, was also about training and development as it pertains to BIR. Now I know that Karen talked about the TTRA. The fact of the matter is, though, the TTRA was a travesty because what it did was it headlocked public servants into a yay or nay situation that was really rubbing them the wrong way. And it was going to be politicized, and you're going to have to give up your tenure as a public officer to go into a contract position, which was not fair for them. So if it is that the removing the TTRA is that you are strengthening the BIR, and the BIR needs structural frameworks, it needs operational frameworks, because I heard the word operational a lot, and there's going to be a lot of training that is designed to enhance the BIR. So that's 2 agencies in public sector training and development. That's also a shift towards public sector reform as well.
I'll say this, the only part that I know I 100% agree with you is there are people in customs that essentially they work hard, but like many other public sector areas, it is the hard workers kind of held to ransom by the ghosts. I think there's ghosts everywhere. That's just me, right? But Nikolai.
I think it has to be a whole of government approach. We always say whole of government approach, but it never translates, right? And when I say whole of government, I agree with Chris in terms of educational reform, the holistic approach, right? We need to figure out why it is that when our young people get an education, they decide to, unless they're on scholarship and have to work it back, they decide to look for opportunities abroad, right? When I say whole of government approach, I mean that very often you find ministries operating in silos, and they sometimes offer the same sets of programs, right? I believe if we truly have the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs, let that ministry be solely responsible for the youth development. You have partnerships with the other ministries, you know, but let the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs be that agency to spearhead initiatives to get on the grassroots level with the young people, build that base, right? And get the initiatives off the ground. Because when you have one initiative here, one initiative somewhere else, who are you targeting really?
So here's the problem though. Well, I don't think we understand, and you might agree. I still, you very much might agree. We're still trying to figure out what is youth development.
I wanted to address those issues, both conceptually and the implementation. Right? When you look at the personnel, who do we have as the Minister of Education? The principal, former principal of Naprima College and Irie College. I mean, a very experienced educator who knows the system inside out, who has an excellent reputation, and so he brings that to the table. In the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Tourism, which is essentially the Ministry of Diversification, Satyakama Maharaj one of our greatest entrepreneurs who really knows about and has, again, hands-on experience and success in creating jobs, creating brands. So this is the kind of thing they'll be speaking, and you'll be hearing
Now, Dr.
that.
Mayhew, we have to take a break, and we're going to have to bring someone else
Yeah.
in. So I want to take this opportunity. I don't know if you just have a closing message, you know, as you're here, representing the government.
But this was really a people's budget, and the importance of this budget, particularly our first one, as I said earlier, was to rebalance the economy. The gap between the rich and the poor subsidizing the rich, that was killing us. And what we've done now is we have made where we need to get the revenue, we are making those who have benefited from the system pay a little more while expanding the benefits and building opportunities for all. And when you see the lower gas prices and the removal of tax on private pensions, etc., what we are looking to do is to rebalance the economy, make everybody more accountable, and push everybody forward.
And with that said, we would have had someone from the opposition to also be here, but unfortunately they were not able to make it. So thankfully we did have at least someone from the government. Dr. Mayhew, thank you. We're going to take a break. Of course, guys, you always stay with me. We'll also welcome our final guest for the night. Going to maybe touch on some national security stuff, at least where we can, and continue conversation from the youth perspective with regards to the growth of our future. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
The season of lights is bright and tasty with Royal Castle's delightful veggie burger made with a healthy and nutritious patty. It's great on its own or in a combo with one side and a 16-ounce drink. So whether it's lunch, dinner or a snack, Royal Castle's veggie burger fits right in with your fasting and festivities. Happy Diwali from Royal Castle.
My mom has been shopping here for the last 15 years. So coming here with her, now I have my own family.
The variety of items, cleanliness of the place, the spaciousness.
My favorite section is household.
My husband loves the hardware section and the auto section. My favorite would be stationery.
Price Club is the low price leading supermarket in TNT.
They are the best. I would recommend Price Club to anybody.
In Hinduism, cow's milk is revered, and from the finest milk comes our ghee. When offered into the sacred fire, cow ghee carries our prayers to the deities, unlike processed vegetable ghee. From your devotion to your delicious dishes, you can trust Anchor Cow Brand Ghee. For all occasions, use the best ghee. Enjoy the best food and delicacies, and have the best Diwali with Anchor Cow Brand Ghee.
It's Diwali time again. Come to Prem Singh's Puja Bhavan for all your Diwali essentials. Get your clay diyas, cotton wicks, floating wicks, beautifully decorated imported diyas. And now in stock, our long-lasting, easy-lighting wax diyas. Fasting? We have frozen vegetarian meals. Exciting Indian spices and grocery items. Decorated mithai boxes, prasad bags, freshly ground elaichi powder, and paper sohari leaves. And don't forget our popular, tasty, mouth-watering mithai. We have simple Diwali puja guides on CD with a puja handout. And our helpful staff will assist you with all the required ingredients to perform your Diwali puja. Get great deals on lantern decorations, electric diya string lights, and happy Diwali decorations. Visit us at the corner of Watt Street, Kirep, or at St. Ives Street, Chaguanas, opposite the Charleville taxi stand, or call 663-6084. Prem Singh's Puja Bhavan. It's a family tradition, serving the nation and Dharma. Lakshmi Mata's divine blessings to all. For your convenience, both branches are open on Sundays until Diwali.
As we wrap up our financial future, our 2026 budget post-presentation discussion panel, of course, Chris Hossain, Nikolai Rampasad, and Dr. Bmobile were joined, the four of us, me included, by our national security expert. I'll use that title for him tonight, or disaster management expert, retired police inspector Ashraf Ali. Ashraf, it's great to see you. Now, with regards to this budget, one of the things I am questioning is with regards to national security. That was my priority. I understand that you can't necessarily, feed every need, right? National security went up by a little bit. I think some people find it curious. It wasn't broken down by ministries, but rather just the overall role. What were your thoughts into the whole budget for that point?
Well, we give it 10%, right?
Oh.
But seriously, when you look at, it's very interesting to know how the Minister of Homeland Affairs deals with the breakdown of this allocation, because previous in the past administration, it was under Ministry of National Security. Now we have two arms. Mm-hmm. And even though they have a slight increase, the adjustments or how it's going to be utilized across the three areas, prisons, fire, police, and when I see some of the things that they are going to give or they are projecting for these three agencies, we all know right now that there are deficits in a lot of the areas when it comes to manpower, resources, and a lot of the other areas. How are they going to utilize that budget? I'm waiting to hear about the discussions and how they're going to actually utilize that budget between those three areas. Right? One thing that a lot of persons may not like, right? The increase in the tickets for careless driving, $15,000. For me, I find that's a good way to go, because over the number of months that we have, there was a lot of road fatalities.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So it means
very recently.
It's recently there are a lot of road fatalities, coupled with the fact that driving under the influence has also gone up. And the cost of alcohol and tobacco is going to increase. We all know that we all continue saying that our society is a very jolly society and like to engage in alcohol, right, consumption on a regular basis. And my younger colleagues here would say, that's part of the society. But when we realize that the impact of driving under influence, the seriousness of driving under influence and the amount of fatalities that cause, together with careless driving. We have too many vehicles on the road.
Soon to be more.
Yeah, more.
Fair enough.
With this budget, soon to be more.
But we don't have drivers who really drive for anybody else. So there's a lot of careless driving. I heard a commentator question, there was no explanation as to what conforms to careless driving. The law clearly gives it is subjective in certain things that you do, certain actions you do. So I don't think there's need for the government, the minister to explain what careless driving is. Clearly stated in Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. So I don't think that is a non-issue in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, I just want to loop you guys in with regards to security, because I understand this is the thing with the budget. that I've been saying for the last 3 years, and seems like ministers of finance kind of want to define me. They want to give everybody everything. But with regards to security, Minister Tanku did point out things in place for more fire engines, things in place to get the Coast Guard up and running. I'm not too sure what he said with regards to the police service, but I'm hoping body cameras, right?
And National Security Training Center.
This is part of the DB campus,
Yeah,
or this is right. So, what do you all think about that? The concerns with regard, because my concerns was, if we kind of don't deal with the crime thing, we could plan for the future all we want. We got to get to the future for the plans for the future to actually matter for us.
We gotta live.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that as a society, we are always reactive as opposed to proactive, in my opinion. We approach crime when it gets to the 500 mark, the 500 murder, and then we, okay, state of emergency. We're putting a Band-Aid on an open wound, right? I think we need to start from the root cause. And where does it stem from? Sometimes it stems from the home. That transitions into bullying at schools. How do we deal with bullying? We suspend a child for 2 weeks. What do they learn from having a suspension at 2 weeks? 2 weeks at home playing. There needs to be programs integrated for rehabilitation. There needs to be more emphasis on rehabilitative justice, right? And we have the Ministry of Justice, we brought back into this current administration, who has that, I would like to say, that portfolio under their belt. I am anticipating, I'm looking forward to seeing what the minister has in plans for that especially. But I think that we need to approach crime from that level, not just when the young person gets to jail, because even when the young person gets to jail, after they have served their sentence, how do we rehabilitate them back into society and not have them wanting to go back into the system, because in the system they're getting 3 square meals, they're getting that comfort, right? So I would say that is the way I would approach it, get to the root cause.
So when the UNC would have sat in opposition, one of the things that the UNC advocated for would have been more resources for the police. I heard someone mention body cameras, right? Yes. Bulletproof vests. I also heard during the election period even something as simple as notepads and toilet paper and those kind of things that would be needed. There's actually a case recently done by attorney, I think it's Attorney Tackler, if I'm not mistaken, where he brought up the issue of cameras, police cameras. So I do think the minister has a very important task when he comes to speak, and I anticipate he would speak as the debate continues. And I am looking forward to hear how he accounts, and so that accounts in process. And then also the Standing Finance Committee. In the Standing Finance Committee, you'll hear more about those aspects, the details.
You see, digitization, one of the things that we really need to digitize. Yeah. And Ashraf, we talk about this, the police service, get connectivity with databases for the guys in the field, get more efficient with regards to that. But was there anything else, any budget presentation, Ashraf, that you would want to highlight?
Well, the issue that we were not talking about rehabilitation here instead of incarceration for non-violent crimes. When you look at our prison system, there's a lot of persons there for non-violent crimes that are being incarcerated. I think that even though they're projecting on rehabilitation, there needs to have much more conversation in the context of rehabilitation.
That has been ventilated in a previous administration.
I think we need to look at it from a different perspective.
It went to the point where it was so well subscribed. It was they hosted, Trinidad and Tobago hosted a restorative justice conference. And there's a paper and there's recommendations from Senior Counsel late Dana Sitahal, among others, that came up with recommendations as to the direction we should go. Unfortunately, we are 14 years after, and the same government has returned, right? That government has returned into office. The question is, where is the documents that would have been created from the Restorative Justice Conference? Because if we're going to reinvent the wheel, and I mean, if I hear the Minister of Justice say he's going to have a conference on restorative justice, I say, well, you're wasting my money.
So let's use one example in terms of non-violence. We have the agricultural sector, and then we have the issue with pretty larceny. Yeah. So if we work the two of them together, someone has been arrested, charged, and convicted of pretty larceny. Right. Why is that? Why are we going to send that person to pay a fee, serve time, or pay a fine? Rehabilitation. utilize that individual in another format. Community
I'm hoping I'm going to hear what I really want to hear you say.
In terms of community relations, right? Let them do some community service because I want you to pay. I am not a pay to keep you in prison.
Well,
I want you to work back for me.
You are being so politically correct and kind. If you're caught and if you are charged and caught and found guilty of previous larceny, then I'm not putting you, Ashraf, to do a community service. I bolting your foot with some bracelet and putting you to go in the fields for the same reason that you were thieving.
But
if you were thieving somebody, Edwards go and plant it back.
Good. but we are still on the same page.
Yeah.
You are a little more draconian than myself.
No, we need to be draconian,
But I agree with you because we're still getting the objective. The objective is that person needs to do the job or sorry, put back into society.
And
right?
Somebody's going to get vexed with me for saying this, but we have a whole workforce that we feed in 3 square meals a day at a regular basis. They should be in the fields as well, with some boats doing the work.
And that is where I am looking at it from the context of security, youth development, because we have a lot of youths in Trinidad and Tobago who are trying to get into the military, the police, the fire, and the army. There's only so much they can get into.
Yeah, correct.
Right? There was a cry of a young man who tried to get in, based on the age, he wasn't able to. That's heartbroken because those are individuals you want who willing to serve, and we don't have an avenue where we can afford these youths to serve or give back to the society.
So, for the interest of time, I want to combine two things quick because I know you mentioned, and we did speak about it before. But with regards to some of the estimates and the revenue positions of the budget, now can't necessarily unpack all of it, but I think this might be the area where maybe some of the criticisms might come from. This is more of a, well, hopefully it works out, but there'll be skeptics about it. One of the things though with national security and why I kind of want to lump these things together is when you look to the Coast Guard and you want Coast Guard to patrol, right? You want fire engines. We're talking about some big ticket expenditures that is not a building, right? Other ministries might have buildings or stuff like that, but when you're talking about national security equipment, there's going to be some real expensive stuff. Is there any concern that perhaps, maybe those figures might not fully bear out, and then I think, this is what I was afraid of, the military is down, do we really need to? Do we really need to invest in? The Americans dealing with the boats. If you want to start.
Yeah, so definitely equipment. Our protected services need equipment. I read a newspaper article a couple of weeks ago about in the military where the brass is getting their equipment and then the regular soldier is struggling, right?
Well, the rations too.
The rations as well, right? We need to prioritize equipment. I want to say the fire tenders, the Coast Guard vessels, police vehicles, right? But then we also need to do maintenance. These assets, they are going to be continuously in use, right? Where do we maintain? We, as a society, as a country, we do not maintain our assets. We do not do preventative maintenance, and then you have rundown assets that are not functioning properly. So a simple thing. I take the water taxi to work every day. Right. There was 4. One is docked. One sank. Now there are 2.
It's Titanic?
Yeah, it sank. It sank at the wharf in San Fernando, and then they had to bring it back up. Right. This is what I'm.
Did nobody know about it?
It was.
A Coast Guard boat also sank. A Coast Guard P-Rob sank in the middle of Scarborough Harbor.
My point is that these are millions of dollars we are investing into equipment for the country, and then the average citizen is the one that suffers. So at the top level, we need to have, whether it be the minister, whether it be the chief of defense staff, the commissioner of police, the chief fire officer, you need to speak to whomever in the government and do preventative maintenance.
So that's why that's why it's very important, and I tend to agree that our maintenance policies throughout our state enterprises, we don't understand what maintenance is about. Having equipment and proper maintenance cost. So in order, if you want life of your assets, you have to invest in it. But here's the problem that we're not doing. When it comes to education, we only concentrate on academic education alone. There are vocational skills and trades that could be done, vehicle maintenance, straightening and painting. A lot of these areas, and I'm glad that the minister spoke about expanding the education. I am hopeful that these are the areas where we could get some youths into these programs, because you could be a member of these organizations. You don't have to be, you could serve, but you don't have to serve as a foot on the ground. There are avenues within these areas that they can perform. So you get skill, you get a cadre of skilled auto mechanics, straightening and painters. And you're opening, and you're trying to build police service has the shop.
Maintenance company of Trinidad and Tobago is for.
But it's only a small. But when you listen, I have a little problem with those individuals from a personal perspective here. When they hear state, a tire costs too much.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
So I am simply saying that if this budget for national security is to be utilized in the most effective manner, we have vehicles that could be repaired. We're supposed to be able to go through a process, border surveys to go on to destroy vehicles and get. There are vehicles that can be rehabilitated. We could take the parts of the vehicle. There are processes in the in procurement that we can go through to account for those vehicles and the parts. Repair vehicles. We just throw in assets. We just leaving assets to waste.
So here's the thing.
There's money wasted.
One question is resources, right? With the Coast Guard and with the fire service, the question, was there enough money? But then there's also how, the accountability.
And so that is why, you know, very early in the discussion here tonight, again, it's for me, my concern wasn't always the amount of money, it was how we utilize the limited resources that we currently have. And some of the things that we're discussing here is not rocket science, you know. This is not no hard Pythagoras' theorem, this is not that, you know. This is just basic. You have an asset, how are you going to ensure that you can have this long term? It's very basic. This is basic maths here. So I think those things I'm expecting to hear from the minister in accounting for, you know, his portfolio.
May I add to something to what you're saying, especially in line of national security? I also think it's important to have releases on time to national security. We should not be in situations, I understand we're managing the entire economy, and I understand that things happen and you have to divert resources and monies into other things that take priority, right? But it cannot be that, for example, immigration officers have not been paid overtime since last year. Upkeep, uniform. Same thing with police officers, these sort of things. How do we then expect these officers in different arms to want to come out to work when either they don't have proper uniforms, their last uniform upkeep was a couple years ago, they're not getting...
They outgrow it and boss it, everything.
I personally know some officers who had to go to detours to buy the same color pants because they're not getting from their stores, right? So I think that yes, the money invested into national security is good, right? But release the funds on time, please.
We mentioned anything about port scanners as yet?
No, we didn't even touch on the,
right.
on the port scanners.
I want to hear something about that as well. I know the previous administration mentioned, I don't know, maybe you could help me with this.
You're worried about you have to bring in something?
No, but you could help me.
I think
no, but you seem concerned.
It would be under the customs talk, but I don't think port scanners was something mentioned in there.
Very important
The
aspect.
minister prior to the budget spoke about there's plans to get new port scanners because because there needs to be raise the efficiency and the competitiveness of the Port of Port of Spain. But
because
the next part about
it came under the category of strengthened port security.
Yes, and the next thing I wanted to add to you all with regard to the rehabilitation thing is that there needs to be effective logging and there needs to be a policy, a use policy. You can't tell me that you buy a brand new vehicle and next thing you know, because it's brand new, whichever agency using it, it crashed and then that's the end of that day. And then, so what? So, because when you look at Vemco, when you look at by CLOTs there, I mean, we have a vehicle graveyard and we're not utilizing parts. I mean, you could...
Dr. Mohammed, here's my question. When you're buying equipment for these particular agencies, you don't just go by any car dealer to buy vehicles for them.
So we're talking procurement now.
Procurement.
Procurement, yeah.
Over
military procurement is a whole other-
over the years, you buy a vehicle to use 365 days of the year by multiple drivers who never drove a vehicle like that in their life. They never owned a vehicle of that nature.
So they flamed it.
So that is what I'm. So this is why
That's right.
this is why I'm saying when you're buying vehicles, it is not about going to the suppliers and buying vehicles just so. It must be fit for purpose.
Agreed.
So I just want to add real quick. Maintenance doesn't allow for annual photo opportunities.
No, and Shutter Life. Shutter Life. Shutter Life through Milwaukee.
Right.
As you rightfully say, you get a vehicle that you never drive before, and you decide to take it up and use it to just joyride.
And that happens across ministries, not one ministry.
But for the politicians, maintaining the police vehicles, I can't get a photo. Buying police vehicles, shaking hands, boy, look how...
Okay, so when we look at America, when the Secret Service, the Diplomatic Security Service, when you look at their vehicles, automatically when you spot a Suburban, you already know some secretary of whatever, that's a detail coming through. You rightfully said it. Why are we buying Corollas? Sorry to say. Why are we buying Corollas as police vehicles in the road conditions that we have? Why is a Prado the best choice for VIP transportation? These are the things we need to think about and really sit down and question, because when you look at the...
Prime Minister says she loves Prado.
No, I agree. Yeah, okay, sure.
So there are certain, sorry, but I agree with you. So there are certain executive, you'll buy an executive vehicle.
Of
so
course,
I am not worried about, I'm not
Yeah.
concentrating on the executive level.
Yeah.
I am talking about the average individual on a daily use.
Take, for example, the other night, you can't tell me I live in the Diwali Nagar. When I driving down the highway, I must see a Ministry of Rural Development. What you doing on the road midnight? What are you doing on the people highway, the government highway, with a state vehicle? What you doing driving the Ministry of Rural Development vehicle midnight? Where have an emergency?
And let me tell you this.
No.
No. And let me say something just to your point. I have witnessed ministry vehicles, drivers, you come to work at 8 a.m., you're in the Prado and the Fortuner, idling in the air condition for an hour, 3 hours, until you get a job, until you're called by whomever. Okay, we need this dropped off at OPM at the whatever. And you are sitting in the state vehicle that the ministry would have paid for, taking in AC and just burning gas.
Okay, so I have two things I want to get to. One is a little bit speculative, and then I want to shift gears a little bit to what you were talking about with road safety, slightly on the road congestion. So there was a reshuffle in responsibilities in the cabinet, and we kind of spoke about it. It makes sense. Do this now because we budget in and we plan in, so who's responsible for what? Let's not make a plan and then switch the responsibilities. That don't make sense. Now, national security. Chief of the Defense Staff was just let go, and now we have potentially a new plan. Do you think, this is all speculative, right? Do you think there might be anything there with regards to the government saying, listen, we need to, the accountability factor, we need to, what's the point of giving you more money and more resources if we have issues with accountability? Potentially. Or if we have issues, you were the guy in charge, things weren't working out, we need to try a new guy. But to be fair.
Is that really an issue?
No, it is. So let me give you my speculation based on what I listened today. Based on what I heard about Caribbean Airlines today, I'm using Caribbean Airlines as a yardstick for every single executive who's been told you need to go home or you need to resign or should resign. Because clearly, these executives were charged with the management and leadership of state assets and resources.
Of expensive.
Okay, good. And as a result of that, there was a lot of wastage and mismanagement. Who is held accountable? The country, as in us the citizens, already fired the government. The next level is the senior executives that are also, they're not talking. So if you're not talking, go home.
My only thing is I just wish there was a way for the government to do it with a bit more transparency So we don't have any room for doubt. That's the only
So
thing.
the thing about it is that I listened to a lot of speculation as to the chief of the defense staff. But nobody questioned the extension that wesn got.
He got 2.
He got 2.
Oh, yeah. We didn't know that.
He got
So
2 extensions.
so it was due. It was due, right?
Okay.
It was due.
For retirement.
Yes.
Yes, and he got 2 extensions.
So it's just because of the state of emergency. That's why you kind of.
So because the state of emergency kicked in, I guess they held him for a while, right? But he got 2 already. It's time to move on.
I want to try and get this last thing in because, okay, foreign use cars might be freed up, gas is cheaper. The alcohol did, in some ways, get a little bit more expensive because the import duties, the custom duties for that kind of went up, okay? So, but don't we produce some here? So I don't know if those prices went up, right? But the foreign alcohol is cheaper than the local alcohol.
But
so
that
this
is
might level the playing field.
They're going to tax the foreign alcohol coming in.
So here's the thing. I can't remember everything that he said, but I was very happy when Minister Tanku mentioned public transportation.
Yes.
He said roads, he said public transportation. Ashraf and I spoke about this on an episode Talking Point. I think because if you have a better public transportation system, in theory, you reduce the foreign exchange to buy new vehicles, you reduce the fuel subsidy because you have less, you have more efficient modes of transportation, right? And also you just have less vehicles on the road. So the road network is more economically efficient.
Yeah. So one of the things that I heard the previous administration speak about would have been a work from home policy, right? And that would have supposed to fall under the Ministry of Public Admin, and well now Ministry of Public Admin and AI. I agree that we need better roads, and I agree that we need a more efficient and reliable public transportation system. But in the interim, until we get there, in some sort of fix, I do think that we can look at a work from home policy.
What?
And I do think we can look at it. I said we can look at it.
No, we've been there, done that, you know.
Yeah.
But also, the reason why I say so, I think there were some lessons that we would have learned from COVID. So for example, where I work from home can work for some of your workers, and it's not a policy in which it's going to be all of your staff, your complement of your staff. But there are certain staff members that don't have to be at work every day or every day with the other ones.
But then you can also go one step further. Does all the staff have to come to work the same time and leave at the same time?
Well,
So
correct.
I have been advocating for that.
Correct. But that is a whole issue in itself, in where we have a very draconian public service, because when you okay, flexi time, right? That's at the discretion of the permanent secretary, and if you have a permanent secretary that says, well, you have to work 8 to 4. I live penal. I work in Port of Spain.
And that it compounds the issue of traffic.
Right, exactly. So,
and your productivity.
So I leave home at 4:30 if I'm driving to get to my ministry, right? Work from home. We did it for COVID, it worked. And then COVID eased up, and we came out of the pandemic, and then we hear nothing. And now work from home is a perk for the heads of department.
So my question, let's ask the question. Did it work for COVID, or we were forced to make it work?
We were forced to make it work.
So because we were forced to make it work, as COVID, the restrictions, we get back to our normal norms.
And this is what I'm saying. We
didn't really learn anything from COVID. No.
Yeah.
Don't we normally give us an inch, we'll take a mile?
Yeah. And this is what I'm saying.
We
are always reactive instead of proactive.
All right, Shane, last word, 30 seconds.
I am just saying that we could do the work from home, but I also think we should have a policy with regard to shift systems. So if you know that people are coming in the office from 6 o'clock, 6 to 2, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, because that is how some people function by nature. Some people are morning people, some people are not. And therefore, the level of productivity you'll get out of people might just work for the government as a whole if we go down that route.
All right, so folks, we are more or less out of time. The conversation it's the budget is basically whole society. We could include almost anything and everything, but we just don't have the time to do so. So I want to thank our final panel for the night, Nikolai, Dr. Mohammed, Chris, Ashraf. Also want to thank our crew, Burke, Mile, Neil, Rodney, Naomi, and of course, I'm Sean Michael Small. Folks, this is WSN's post-budget discussion panel, our financial future, and now we go off into the future together, and we'll see each other pretty soon. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents